Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, as we get ready to kick off another week. Send your emails to box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley. That's podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And you can become a fan on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. All right, well, we're going to get into today's show in just a second. Before we do, I want to remind you to try out Audible. Audible is a great service. It allows you to choose from more than 80,000 titles. You get one audiobook a month. You can choose fiction, nonfiction. You can listen to some high-quality classic old-time radio collections featuring such stars as Nero Wolfe and Dragnet. Or you can listen to more modern or classic novels, or the latest New York Times bestseller. For myself, this month, I actually got a legal thriller to listen to from Audible. But make your own choice. You can sign up for a 2-week free trial, which also includes audio subscription to the Wall Street Journal. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. Well, let's get into today's episode of Box 13, Much Too Lucky.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of Star Times. I'm a betting agent in my state where betting agents are legal. I'm one of the many who are being taken for plenty. I think there's something haywire, but none of us have been able to figure it out. Now, since you'd be a stranger here, we figure you'd have a better than even chance of nosing
around and finding out how we're getting clipped. If you do, we'll pay. If you don't, maybe you'll have yourself an adventure anyway. My name is Bert Hendricks. Look me up at 6729 Sierra Way. Enclosed is enough money to take care of immediate expenses. Have a look, huh? Yeah, I had a look all right. Right into the muzzle of a nasty .25 automatic. Now back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, Much Too Lucky.
Are you going to be gone long, Mr. Holliday?
Well, I don't know, Susie. That all depends.
On what?
On what happens.
Oh, what could happen?
Where I'm concerned, anything.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I get worried about you, Mr. Holliday.
Sometimes?
Most times. It's just like a nomination.
Oh? What am I running for?
Huh?
Nothing. I just had a premonition.
What's that?
What you didn't have.
I don't get it.
Well, you work on it until I get back, Susie. I'm off to the races. The plane trip was quick and pleasant. And 8 hours after I said goodbye to Susie, I was talking with Bert Hendricks, a big, nice-looking fella, but with a worried look on his face.
After we had introduced ourselves, Hendricks let me know what was putting the wrinkles between his eyes.
Oh, it's got us roped and tied like a Christmas package, Dan.
Oh? How much are you losing?
Plenty. Runs into 4 or 5 figures every week.
Maybe somebody's being lucky.
To be that lucky, a guy'd have to be born with a silver horseshoe in his mouth. Look, yesterday I paid off on a long shot at 40 to 1. The clip ran to the tune of 20,000.
And that, as they say in books, is sugar with a capital S.
It'd buy a lot of coffee. Anyway, we figure we're getting it the wrong way. Clip, bamboozled.
Well, why don't you go to the police?
With what? Troubles? That's not the answer.
Have you tried to find out?
Are you kidding? We ran ourselves into a lather trying to catch the angle. No dice. Dan, somebody in this town's plenty smart. Smart enough to know our boys.
And that brings me in.
That's right. You're a stranger. They won't take a second look at you. I caught your ad in the Star-Times and played the bet. Well, here you are.
With nothing to do.
How much do you want?
Well, believe it or not, Bert, I do this for nothing.
Yeah, I heard you say that before, but I don't get your dodge.
My what?
Your gimmage, dodge, racket, angle.
Oh. Well, I figure if the plot's good enough, I can use it in the story.
Okay, but no dough?
I'll tell you what, Bert. If I figure this, will you turn over what you'd give me to any charity I name?
Here's a blank check. Fill in the amount, I'll sign it. But try to catch the capers that are putting the shellac on us.
With nothing to start on, I've got a job.
They're smart, plenty smart. What they win is over and beyond the run of luck or chance.
Any ideas?
Yeah? One.
Oh, what's that?
They got a guy with a crystal ball.
That the best you can do?
Come on in the wire room with me. See if we can catch anything.
Well, up front.
This way.
And we're getting ready now for the third race of the day.
We've got a radio back here, broadcasting direct from the track. Comes over a local station.
Oh, and where are the bets placed?
Right here, or by phone.
I see. And you take bets up until the time the horses are at the post.
That's right. But once the race starts, no more bets. Listen to the race.
Now he's in place. We're ready. And they're off.
Hiya, Bert.
Hi, Billy. How's it going?
Somebody called up and got a century on party line.
Oh, the 20 to 1 shot?
That's right. Oh, Billy, this is a friend of mine, Dan Holliday.
Hiya.
Hello, Billy.
If party line wins, Bert, it's the 4th long shot this week that's paid off.
Yeah, I know.
And each one was bet on, is that it?
But heavy.
I still say there's one of them guys that's doing it by telepathy.
Listen.
At the half, it's mine owned by half a length over Cantilever. Rocket is third and falling back with Old Joe as party line still swings wide and moves up on the outside. Coming into the turn now with mine owned by a head over Cantilever and moving up fast on the outside is party line in third.
There he comes.
Who made that bet on party line?
Mike took the call.
Okay. Get me to the name of the guy who made the bet.
Sure. Right away, Bert.
Listen to that.
Mine owned and party line. It's mine owned by a half over party line, and it's a driving finish with mine owned in front by a nose. Party line getting up the whip and moving up, and across the finish. It's party line by a head over mine owned.
Oh, 20 to 1.
And $100 at 20 to 1.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Come on. Let's go back to my office. Oh, Dan, I don't get it. How can they pick long shots like that?
Is it only long shots?
No, not always. Sometimes it's the favorite, but it's always a winner. And I say no guy can pick a winner every race, especially every long shot. Come in.
Want to know who placed that 100 on party line, Bert?
Yeah.
Here's the tab.
Oh, her again.
She's awful lucky.
Too lucky.
Who is it?
Name's Vaughn. Terry Vaughn. Singer at one of the clubs here.
She's done this before, huh?
Yeah, she's done it before. 20 grand today, 5 last week. Why doesn't she retire and leave here?
Well, she can.
Look, Dan, we've got this betting narrowed down to about 20 people.
20?
Yep. The most consistent winners. They never lose.
Oh, a ring, is that it?
That's right. But not one of them is ever at the track.
You mean they just don't go?
That's right, never.
I don't get it.
Neither do we.
Oh, Billy.
Yeah?
This call from Terry Vaughn came in just before the horses were at the post, huh?
Sure. We take bets up to the break.
What are you thinking about, Dan?
I was just wondering if there was any way of getting advance information on a race.
You kidding. Not a chance. This is a business with us. Legitimate. On the level. We know every angle and dodge. There's no way anyone could know before the race that a long shot like party line was going to nose across first.
You've got yourself a problem.
All right. How about taking a slice of it, Dan? What I said about that blank check still goes.
Okay, you've got yourself a boy.
Good.
I don't know where I'll start, but as they say in books, everything has a beginning. So, why not start with Terry Vaughn? Waiter. Oh, waiter.
Oh, yes, sir?
I wonder if you'd deliver this note for me.
Certainly, sir. Where to?
Miss Terry Vaughn.
I'll see about it, sir.
Will this make you see any better?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oh, and tell Miss Vaughn I'm a journalist.
Newspaper man?
Yes, I guess that's it. You see, I'd like an interview.
Well, I'll see what I can do, sir. I'll do my very best.
I waited. I didn't know what Miss Terry Vaughn could tell me or wouldn't tell, but it was a chance. She didn't know me, so she wouldn't be suspicious. It was 10 minutes later that the waiter came back to my table.
Miss Vaughn will see you, Mr. Holliday.
Oh? How did you know my name?
It was on the card you sent with the note.
Simple, isn't it, Dr. Watson?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, never mind. Now, where's Miss Vaughn?
Oh, she'll be here in a moment.
Oh. Okay, I'll wait.
Yes, sir. Glad to have been of service.
I waited, and I'll admit the wait was worthwhile. Miss Terry Vaughn glided across the floor to my table, smiled $5,000 worth of teeth, tossed $1 million in red hair over her shoulder, and put $10 million of the rest of her in the chair across from me.
You're Mr. Holliday.
You're Miss Vaughn.
Mm-hmm. Your note said you wanted to interview me.
That's right.
Well, I'm flattered.
I imagine that's a fairly common situation with you.
What paper are you with, Mr. Holliday?
I have a connection with the Star Times.
Oh, you're a big city boy.
I didn't know it showed.
Why do you want to interview me?
Oh, lots of reasons, Miss Vaughn.
Name one.
Well, I heard you were very lucky today.
Lucky? How?
Or do you win $20,000 every day?
What does this have to do with an interview?
Well, it's human interest stuff, Miss Vaughn. Very human and very interesting.
I see. But why pick on my lucky streak?
Because it was so lucky.
Oh, I've always been lucky.
Oh, I can understand that. Oh, how did you happen to pick party line today?
I like long shots.
Always?
When I feel lucky.
Do you ever lose?
Sometimes. Why?
Oh, I'm just asking.
Mr. Holliday, this is a peculiar interview.
Oh, I don't think so. Just pleasant.
What paper did you say you were with?
The Star Times.
And what are you doing here?
Vacation.
When is it over?
Couple of weeks.
I see. Well, Mr. Holliday, as far as I'm concerned, it's over now. Have a nice time.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Please stay here.
Why?
I feel that I owe you an apology.
For what?
For being so curious.
All right. We'll forget it.
Let's do. Let's forget all about $20,000, long shots, and lucky streaks.
And what shall we substitute?
Terry Vaughn. Do you mind?
I don't mind if I do, Mr. Holliday.
Well, it was a pleasant way to spend an evening. But when it was over, I was just as smart as at the beginning, which was zero. Maybe Terry Vaughn was lucky, but how lucky can you be? The next day, I met Bert Hendricks, and he had more trouble.
Well, somebody did it again today, Dan. Not quite as big as Terry's play yesterday, but enough. Enough.
One of the same 20 people you've tabbed?
One of the 20.
If it weren't for the fact that it's those same 20 people all the time, it could be just luck.
Could be. You saw Terry last night?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I saw Terry.
And?
A very lovely girl.
I wish I had her money. It's mine. That's funny.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bert. I don't have to ask if you've watched those 20 people.
Oh, sure we have. They don't talk to anyone connected with the track. As far as I know, they don't even know anyone there.
There's got to be a gimmick.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself in the head.
Look, Bert, let's try to figure it out logically. You say every one of those bets is placed just before the race is run.
That's right.
And each of those 20 people picks a winner.
Yeah. Not only with me, but with all the other agents who have the same setup I've got.
Then how could they get advance information?
They can't.
They've got to, Bert.
Dan, we've been all over that.
Yeah, maybe there's an angle you've overlooked.
Okay, name it and I'll buy it.
Is there any particular race or races they always bet? What races do you lose the most heavily on?
Wait a minute. That is an angle.
You think of something?
Maybe. Wait a second. I'm going to check. I think I'm right, but I'll make sure.
Hello?
Hello, Billy. This is Bert.
Yeah?
What race is being run now?
Time for the 6th.
Did you have any big bets?
No.
Were there any of the 20 on this one?
No.
Which ones did they hit?
3rd, 4th, 5th.
That's all?
Yeah, why?
Nothing. See you later.
Well?
3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's what I thought. Never the 1st, 2nd, or the 6th, 7th, or 8th.
Always the 3rd, 4th, or 5th.
That's right. But where's the gimmick?
I don't know. But hand me the phone.
Here.
Thanks. Now, what's the phone number of the club where Terry Vaughn works?
No, I don't know. It's in the directory. But why? What's that got to do with this?
Bert, I don't know yet. But I'm going to ask the lovely Terry Vaughn if she'll go out with me tomorrow afternoon.
Afternoon? What are you getting at?
Your money, I hope. Hand me the directory.
And now back to Much Too Lucky, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Well, I had an idea. Not a big one, and not one that made sense, yet. But I was going to play it. So the next afternoon, I met Miss Terry Vaughn for lunch. I arranged the time so we'd be together just about the same time the horses went to the post for the 3rd race. We sat in a little cafe.
I was really surprised that you called me, Dan.
Oh, why, Terry?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you seem more interested in my luck than in me.
The two go together.
I suppose so. Do you ever play the races?
No, I never have. But there's always a first time.
That's what they all say.
Why do you ask? Got something good, as they say in the vernacular?
Oh, I never get tips.
Ah, but you win.
Occasionally.
Mm-hmm. What's your secret?
What makes you think it's a secret?
That was just a figure of speech. Let's talk about something else.
Oh, what time is it?
Oh, 2:20. Why? Thinking of leaving me so soon?
No, but I have something to do around 3.
Oh, important?
To me, yes.
I see. Well, shall we take a walk?
Yes, I'd like to.
Okay, that's it. So we walked. Terry was very charming. I was beginning to wonder about my hunch. Maybe it was luck after all. Then, a few minutes after 3...
Dan, will you excuse me for a few minutes?
Oh, your important 3 o'clock date.
That's it. I have to make a phone call.
Want me to wait?
Yes, if you want to.
Oh, I do.
I'll make it from this drugstore.
All right. I'll wait right here.
I won't be more than a few minutes.
She went into the drugstore and straight to a phone booth. I slipped inside, went to a counter. The clerk came up to me.
May I help you, sir?
Oh, yes. Let me see a pair of those binoculars, will you?
These? They're not very good, except for children, just toys.
Oh, I like to play with toys. May I see a pair?
Certainly. Here you are.
Thanks.
If you point them outside, you'll get a better idea of what they'll do.
Oh, I'm getting a good idea right here.
Excuse me, I'll be right back, sir.
Uh-huh. I watched Miss Terry Vaughn in that phone booth. The binoculars weren't very good, but I saw the numbers she dialed and remembered them. She spoke for a few seconds, hung up, dropped another coin, and dialed another number. I got that one, too. Then the clerk came back.
They work all right, sir?
Oh, they're marvelous, just marvelous. How much are they?
$2.95.
Here you are.
Shall I wrap them?
Got any kids?
Huh? I mean, why, yes.
Well, here's a present for them.
But you just bought them.
Well, you see, I like your kids. You take these.
But sir, I can't take these, or can I?
I walked back outside and got to the pavement before Terry Vaughn finished her second phone call. I was standing there when she came out.
Well, there we are. All set.
Make a call, all right?
Yes. Now, how'd you like to see the town?
I'd love it. Come on, let's go. We spent a pleasant afternoon, but my mind wasn't on my work. I was trying to keep those phone numbers straight in my head. Then Terry had to go to the club for rehearsal. As soon as she left me, I headed for a phone booth and dialed the first number she'd called.
Hello?
Hello, Bill?
Bill? What number do you want?
Is Bill there?
There's no Bill here, I'm sorry.
You're sure there's no Bill there?
You got a wrong number, bud.
Wrong number, huh? Maybe not. I dialed the second number she'd called. Hello, who's this?
Hendricks, who's that?
Hendricks. This is Holiday.
What's up?
Listen, did Terry Vaughn place a bet this afternoon?
Yeah, on the 4th.
Did she win?
She had 50 on the winner's nose.
Look, she was with me when she made the bet.
You had her make it?
No, she was in a phone booth. Was that the only bet she made?
That was enough.
How many winners did you have in that race?
6 of the other 20 people had the winner.
How about the other races?
3rd, 4th, and 5th. All winners among the 20 people.
Uh-huh.
You got the gimmick?
Maybe. But I've got to prove it. Listen, just sit tight, Bert. Don't open your mouth, don't let out a peep, and above all, don't try to see me.
But, Dan, if you know anything, please...
I don't know whether I know anything or not, but I'll find out tomorrow at the track. Later that evening, I made a purchase, a very important one. Then I called Terry Vaughn and asked her to go to the track with me the next day. It took a little persuasion, but she finally said yes. So the next afternoon, with my purchase in the pocket of my topcoat, Miss Vaughn and I went to the track. And up in the stands...
Do you know, Dan, this is the first time I've been here this season.
Oh, I thought you liked racing.
Oh, I do, but, well, being at the track makes me nervous.
Nervous? Why?
Oh, no reason at all.
Which horse do you like in this race?
Oh, I'm not going to bet.
Oh, now, with your luck?
I don't want to force it.
I see. Well, I don't blame you.
Why don't you go ahead and bet?
All right, you pick a horse for me.
Think my luck will rub off on you?
Could be. Go ahead. Pick one.
Well, let's see. How does this one sound? Bright Angel.
Bright Angel it is, in the 3rd.
It's almost post time.
Uh-huh. Well, these are good seats.
Yes, they are.
I reached in my pocket and took out the important purchase I had made the previous evening and started to unwrap it.
What's that, Dan?
Oh, I just bought this, a portable radio. I wonder if I can hear the race on it.
Don't turn that on.
But why not?
Put down that radio, Mr. Holiday. Put it down.
Why don't you want me to turn it on?
You're just a little too smart, Mr. Holiday. This is a gun in my purse. You're getting out of here. Go on.
I carry radios. You carry guns. You're well equipped.
Go on. Lead the way.
Okay. She was as cool as an Arctic winter, and she handled the gun nicely, kept it in the small of my back under her handbag. Somehow I knew she'd use it if she had to. We got to her car, and a half hour later she marched me into a room where a man sat wearing a pair of headphones. He looked up as we came in.
Hello, Terry. Who's this?
A smart boy, Tim. I'm leaving him with you.
Smart boy?
Mm-hmm. He's wise. How he got that way, I don't know. But after the 5th race cleanup, we're leaving town.
Well, it's about time. We couldn't run this racket forever.
You know, Mr. Holiday, you're lucky you didn't come along sooner.
Yes, I know. Before you made your take.
That's right. How did you figure it?
Through a .295 pair of binoculars. I saw the numbers you dialed yesterday.
Oh, you should be with us.
Let's see. That thing there is a wire recorder. You tap into the broadcast line that runs from the track to the radio station, without the station's knowledge. You record the broadcast, then play it back into the broadcast line. 2 minutes after the regular airtime.
You are smart.
And those 2 minutes give you enough time to place bets on sure things. You already know the winners, but the bookmakers don't.
Correct.
But you only pull this on the middle 3 races of the card, so that latecomers and those who leave the track early won't catch wise by listening to their radios.
Right again. The broadcast is delayed 2 minutes. The race is already over before the bookmakers even think it started. Sit down, Mr. Holiday. Watch him, Tim.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to clean up a few odds and ends. Goodbye, Mr. Holiday.
Oh, we'll see each other again.
Oh, I doubt that very much. Goodbye. And be very happy that some of my luck did rub off on you.
Smart dame, smart dame. Knows angles.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, we make a take here and then move on. Now, you just sit still, Bub. I got some work to do, but I can still watch you.
I watched him, too. The wire recorder was spinning. He flipped a switch, and I knew what happened. The 3rd race at the track was over, but the broadcast of it was going over the air now. 2 minutes later. Then...
Now we sit tight for a while.
Say, that wire recorder, I've never seen one before.
Great gadgets. Great. I make recordings of my own voice all the time.
Oh?
You mean all you do is talk into that little microphone and your voice is recorded right away?
Mm-hmm. Hey, you want to say something?
Hey, you're obliging.
Oh, sure, anything to pass the time. Gets dull in here. Go on, say something, and we'll play it back for you. Go on.
Well, what'll I say?
Oh, anything. First thing comes to your mind.
Well, my name is Dan Holliday. I'm being held prisoner at 758 Condo Street at the point of a gun. Please help.
Oh, great. Just great. Don't you wish someone on the outside could really hear that?
Yeah, I guess I do. Now, you mean that thing will play it right back, huh?
Sure. I just got to switch from the record to playback, that's all.
He turned his back for a second and flipped a switch. I flipped a switch, too, and waited. Well, my name is Dan Holliday. I'm being held prisoner at 758 Condo Street at the point of a gun. Please help.
See? That's all there is to it.
Well. What do you know about that? Isn't science wonderful?
Yeah, sure is. Too bad you had to come along and spoil this racket, mister. But I guess we made a big enough take, and keep your hands up, mister. I can shoot and answer the phone at the same time. Yeah?
Tim, what happened?
Happened? Nothing. Why? The guy is
Listen, get out of there fast and take him with you. We'll take care of him later, but get out of there fast.
Terry! Terry!
Something wrong?
I don't know. Get up and move out. Go on.
I did. But I did something else first. We walked out of the place, a gun in my ribs. I hoped what I'd done would work. We walked up the street a piece, and then...
That's cops. All right, duck in here. Go on, in this hallway. Now, just keep quiet and let them go past. Guess they won't find nobody there, will they?
No, I guess not. Well, what now?
Well, wait for a minute, and we go. All right. Now get in front of me and stay there. Go on.
Drop that gun.
What? Who?
Better drop it. There are a lot of cops.
Okay, don't shoot.
Dan Halliday. You all right?
Sure, Hendricks. Did you hear my broadcast?
Yeah. Your voice cut in right in the middle of the regular broadcast.
Huh? I don't get it. How'd they find us? How'd they trail us?
Oh, look on your coattail, Tim. You didn't know it, but when we left that room, I hooked the end of the wire from the recorder on your coat. You see, Tim, you were wired for sound.
Gee, that sure was a clever idea they had, Mr. Holliday.
Uh-huh.
And you were clever, too. That wire left a trail right to you and that man.
Yeah, he was wired for sound, Susie.
Uh-huh. Oh, and I'll bet you got a racy story out of it.
What, Susie?
No, don't you get it, Mr. Holliday? I made a joke. Racy story. Get it?
Yeah, I got it. Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with this week's original story by Robert M. Light and Mr. Sandville. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. Part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker, and production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd and his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. It's always nice to see cutting-edge 1940s technology in action. It's a fascinating perspective as to what was considered high-tech back then. Overall, I think they did a pretty clever job with it. All right, we have a few listener comments to get into. George writes in that Alan Ladd was great in this otherwise so-so old-time radio series. Well, thanks, George, though. I don't know if there was an otherwise other than Alan Ladd. This really was his vehicle, and this is one show where the supporting characters couldn't even carry on for an episode without him. Now, and let George do it. I think you could have George take a vacation and Lieutenant Riley and Brooksy be able to fully handle the plot, but not so much with Susie and Lieutenant Kling. Just not happening. And thanks so much to George also to voting for us on Podcast Alley. I got another comment on Podcast Alley I thought was kind of interesting. Thank you for all your hard work for the show, Adam. I love to listen to your shows while I am cleaning. My favorite show is Box 13. Thanks for the behind-the-scenes commentary as well. Boy, does history repeat itself. All shows on TV today are all copies of each other, just like in the 1940s on radio. I think that's an interesting point. Today, it's almost... it's getting to a point, I think, where a lot of people are not happy about the replication. There have been several parodies in recent months I've noticed as a kind of trend, parodying the way that everybody is copying everyone else. The first one I saw was a parody called Academy Award-winning Pictures, and then there have been other ones parodying the sameness of political campaign ads, etc. So it does seem like we may be ready for a burst of originality, which we will all then endlessly copy. But you're right. There's always, I think, in the entertainment business, you find what works and you just continue to do it. Before we do get started, I want to remind you, as you make your summer travel plans, remember JohnnyDollarAir.com first. With Johnny Dollar Air, you've got great flexibility. You can choose from published specials or name your own price on hotels and airline tickets and rental cars. Also, by booking more than one service together, you may be eligible for a vacation package discount. So just remember, for all your travel needs, check JohnnyDollarAir.com first. Well, let's go ahead and we're getting to today's episode of Jeff Regan, The Man Who Fought Back.
My name's Regan. I get 10 a day and expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Anthony J. Lyon. They call me the Lion's Eye.
With Jack Webb as Jeff Regan, the Lion's Eye, stand by for hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of the man who fought back.
There's a street crammed in between Wilton and Van Ness in Hollywood. It's called Taft Avenue. It's a couple of blocks long, and it only got there because the city planners had a few tons of cement left over from the Coliseum. On the corner, there's a gray building poking its way up through a crack in the pavement. That's where I live. Apartment K. 2 rooms with a connecting door to a broom closet. Oh, the place isn't much. A couple of chairs, a bed that comes out of the wall, and a mattress that could pass itself off as a relief map of the High Sierras. Well, that's where I was the other night around 11 trying to catch some sleep. That's when my phone began making an impression. It turned out to be the Lion.
Hey, Regan, I'm glad I found you home. Are you alone?
What's the matter? Did you lose your voice?
Just a precaution. I got a hold of a good thing, and I don't want to lose it by indiscreet talk.
Well, then write me a letter.
We've just been hired. You start tonight.
It'll keep till morning.
Her name's Alice Lafarge. She'll meet you in a bar called the Princess across the street from Pershing Square. Get going.
What's her trouble?
She'll tell you all about it when you get there.
Can't you tell me?
I haven't got the time right now, but there's nothing to it. I'd handle it myself if I didn't have a big deal on.
Flirting with widows in Pasadena, huh?
So I got a social engagement. It helps our business. Pays to be seen in high society.
And besides, the liquor's good.
You just get over to see the Lafarge dame. And give me a ring in the morning and let me know how you make out.
All right, lover.
Hey, Regan.
Huh?
What should I take to my Pasadena girlfriend? Flowers or candy?
You better take both. You're going to need all the help you can get. I threw on some clothes and I headed for town. My car found a parking lot off Olive, and I cut through Pershing Square to make it over to Hill. It was after midnight. A sailor was chasing a bow-legged Marine over the grass. He brought him down on about the 40-yard line. The Princess Bar showed up near the corner of 6th, a little place holding up 6 stories of granite. I went inside. A mustache was trying real hard on a piano. 200 pounds of bartender was moving a wet rag over the bar in slow motion. A girl was sitting on the far stool in a black purse with the initials ALF. Alice Lafarge. If you looked real hard, you could find her eyes. I gave up on her lips. I lowered myself onto the stool next to her. She looked tired, like a chorus girl on a Sunday morning.
Yes?
I'm Regan, international detective.
How do I know?
You will when you get the bill.
You're late, Mr. Regan.
Well, I didn't pick up any traffic tickets, if that's what you wanted.
Well, it doesn't matter. We have a few minutes yet.
What are we waiting for?
12:30. Can I buy you a drink, Mr. Regan?
You're calling it.
Bartender.
What'll it be, miss?
I'm not drinking. Serve the gentleman.
Scotch?
Bourbon and water.
Got some pretty tasty scotch, buddy.
Bourbon.
Just trying. I get a commission on the scotch.
All right, lady, now let's have it.
You live far from here, Mr. Regan?
About 20 minutes.
Well, you better run home and throw a change of clothes into a suitcase.
Out-of-town job?
No, but you'll need a change. Bring along a deck of cards and a thick book.
Anything else?
Call off any dates you may have. You're going to be out of circulation for the weekend. Here's an address at the hotel on North Figueroa. Get there as soon as you can.
You still haven't said anything. What's the job?
You'll find out when you get there.
I'll get tired of waiting. Come on, lady, let's open it up.
Hey, buddy, scotch. Hey, you leaving us, miss? Next one's free.
Thanks, anyway.
Okay.
Now, look, beat it, you, and take that scotch with you.
Okay. Drink it myself. I still get the commission.
All right, now, come on, sis. Let's have the rest of it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Regan. That's all I can tell you now. Just be at that address as soon as you can.
Now, she slid off the stool and moved for the front door. I caught a view of her in the mirror. There was nothing there to make a guy want an encore. Sandy hair, short, thin body that you could have slipped into a mailbox. Well, she threw the door shut behind her. A couple of seconds ticked by, and I moved out after her. I made the street just in time to see her climb into a cab and start up 6th. That's when I spotted the red Austin with an Illinois license. There was a Glen plaid sleeve sticking out of the left side, and that's all I got of the driver, except that he was doing a real bad tag job on the Lafarge girl. The North Figueroa address Alice Lafarge gave me turned out to be the Gladstone Hotel. A 2-layer pile of wood so old that the termites were getting indigestion. A short guy with a shiny head was catching up on his reading in the lobby. He put down the seat catalog long enough to tell me that apartment 3B was upstairs in the back. A couple of knocks on the door, and Alice let me in. Sitting in the corner was a bush of gray hair and a white face. Turned out to be a man with a worried look, like an alligator in a handbag factory.
Shut the door, Alice.
Yes, Dad.
Thanks for coming, Regan.
I'll let you know later if you're welcome.
Take his things, Alice.
No, I'm going to hang on to him for a while.
Suit yourself, but your coat will get heavy in a few hours.
What says I'm going to stay that long?
Me? That's what you're hired for.
What else?
Well, lots of time to get to that. Let's get to know each other first.
You got a name?
I'm Bill Lafarge. Sort of fancy, but I like it.
Give me some more.
Not much more. Just an old joker with nothing left but a few years and a regular dud.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Regan, this isn't my real address. I just moved here.
Yeah, the rent's low.
That's not it. Bill Lafarge can handle more.
All right, you can skip the bank statement, mister.
Will you please try to be civil, Mr. Regan?
That's not what you hired me for.
It's okay, Alice. Can't say I blame him.
All right, then. Let's throw it in gear, huh?
Not much to your job, Regan. Just spend the weekend with me.
I've had better offers.
Yeah, I did too in my time. Well, that's the easy part of it.
You got something hard?
You stay awake the next 48 hours and keep looking at me.
Who's after you?
Nobody.
I figure different.
You could be wrong.
Shades down, lights out, red Austin on a tag job.
What do you mean?
Plaid suit moved out after you when you left the Princess.
You sure he was following Alice?
Like you said, I could be wrong.
Get one thing straight, Regan. I never hire anybody to protect me. Bill Lafarge handles things like that himself. You're here as a witness.
What for?
Just in case somebody wants some testifying as to how I spent this weekend.
All right.
Now throw off your coat. Let's play a little cards.
Why not?
Alice, open the window. It's getting a little hot in here.
All right, Dad.
Good girl. Gin, Mummy?
You're dealing.
How high do you want to play? 2 bits if you...
Shots came flying in from the alley and didn't stop until they caught Alice Lafarge. They blew her back into the room, and she did a full turn like a ballet dancer showing off. By the time her father and I got to her, it was all over. The old man straightened up and began mumbling something about Red Austin. I stepped for the phone. I put in a call to Sanducci at Homicide. He took down the story and promised to send out some company, and then I cradled the phone. That's when I knew I was alone with the girl. Old man Lafarge had hot-footed it out of the building like a super chief on a holiday weekend. Well, the boys from Homicide showed in a couple of minutes, and they had a few questions. I gave them what I had, and Sanducci tabled the rest until the next day. So I went home to relax. You know, the Lion could have made a good detective. He always finds me.
Regan, I'm not paying you to sit at home. Get your coat on and explain this.
What?
This newspaper story. There's a big lie in here about the Lafarge dame getting killed. Now, I know you wouldn't allow that to happen to one of our clients.
It was real hard, but I managed.
I give you a simple little job and you turn it into a murder. You getting a commission from Forest Lawn?
You got your hands full, too.
What do you mean?
Sanducci will be visiting you with a pocket full of questions.
I don't know nothing about her shooting. I was out in Pasadena all night playing a guitar, and I got a sore finger to prove it.
Now, you listen to me, Big Shot. You better start sniffing around and turn up a Red Austin with a plaid suit behind the wheel.
Whatever.
Get some information on Bill Lafarge, the girl's father.
Hey, what's that?
You know, I bet if we open it, we'll find out.
Well, I better get a move on. Just open the door a little bit, and I'll squeeze by.
Yeah.
Hello, Lieutenant. Nice to see you, Sanducci.
Where's he going?
We get in line for Notre Dame tickets. When did you take up knocking, Sanducci, huh?
New directive went through the department. Show a little more courtesy.
You don't wear it well.
And I figure it's political. They're working on building up a gate for the next policeman's show.
Gotta put you on. You're worth a couple of laughs.
Yeah, I'll speak to the boys. How did you sleep last night, Regan?
Fine.
You shouldn't have. The murder should have given you nightmares.
There's always Ovaltine.
You know, some of the boys down at headquarters figure you know more about this shooting than you're saying.
Well, they made mistakes before.
Now, I'm not saying. I feel like they do.
What do you want?
Who knocked off the Lafarge girl?
You're asking yourself.
Wrong answer.
How would you know?
She got it with a .45. What do you want?
You know what I own.
But I don't know about Lafarge.
The shots came in through the window. Even you can figure that.
He could have had help.
Talk to him.
I will when we pick him up. In the meantime, it's you and me.
You got nothing on me.
We found a roll of dough in a briefcase in the bottom bureau drawer. What was it doing there?
I don't know.
All right, Regan. Now let me give you a tip. The word's out Lafarge got a private war on. I don't want any more shooting, so I look at it this way. He's your client. I'm holding you responsible. And Regan.
Yeah?
Cada what's in a mangiare le sorge tutto paese, casi un brisagliere stupidi.
What's that mean?
Go find out. You're a detective.
Well, I don't suppose I'll ever find out. He slid out of the room, and I washed up and had a short breakfast at the corner drugstore and went through the morning paper. The Lafarge murder rated a lot of big type, and there was a picture of Alice right next to the weather report, slightly cooler. After the bottom showed in my coffee cup, I went over to the Hollywood Library. The city directory gave William Lafarge an Orange Drive home address and occupation printer. The yellow phone book turned up a Lafarge Preston print shop on Santa Monica near La Brea. It was a small place, the color of stale peanut butter, and it was tucked in between a pet store and a beauty parlor. When I stepped inside the front door, the bell rang, and a couple of pair of tortoise-shell glasses covering a couple of deep blue eyes looked at me. She was a brunette with light skin and a voice that sounded like it was diving for sponges. The print shop smell got lost in all that taboo.
Morning, sir. May I help you?
I'm looking for Mr. Lafarge.
There's no Mr. Lafarge here.
Sign outside says there is.
It's an old one. Won't I do instead?
Now, that's another chapter.
Then turn the page. I think you'd enjoy it.
You know, you ought to put out cards.
Mr. Preston says business has picked up immeasurably since I started working here.
Let's get back to Lafarge.
I told you he's not here.
Well, try Preston for me.
He's very busy.
Well, he can spare a couple of words.
Now, wait a minute.
Look,
you can't go in there. I'm sorry, Mr. Preston. I told him you were very busy.
All right, Lois. Who are you?
My name's Regan. I'm with International Detective. I got some questions about your partner.
Of course. Please leave us, Lois.
See you later, soldier.
Cigar, Mr. Regan?
No, I won't be here that long.
Naturally, I'll be only too happy to tell you anything I can.
It was such a shock reading about his poor daughter's death. A wonderful girl.
Lafarge said that.
Yeah, you'd say it, too, if you knew her. She was very good to him. Well, Mr. Regan, what specifically can I tell you?
The book calls this place Lafarge Preston. Somebody's missing.
Well, you see, Bill and I were in partnership for years. When he decided to pull out, I just planned to leave the name the same.
When did he go?
Just a few weeks ago.
They give a reason?
I don't know exactly. Implied he had enough money or was coming into some, I'm not sure. But it happened so sudden, left me a little short-handed. Still having trouble finding a first-class engraver to take his place.
I left him sitting there chewing a panatella, and I moved out fast like a sailor on shore leave. It was about 11 and getting warmer. I picked up my car and went home. It took me 10 minutes to track down Sanducci.
Yeah?
Regan,
What do you want me for? Fix a traffic ticket?
look, I got something for you.
Make it good.
I've been talking with Preston down at the print shop.
Yeah?
Lafarge stepped out kind of fast carrying a roll.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, he knew engraving. I figure you ought to take a good look at that money. It may turn up phony.
I'm not impressed.
All right, I gave it to you. Do what you want.
Look, we checked into the door already. It's absolutely legit. Now give up, Regan.
Navy didn't.
Matter, Regan? She turned you down?
Who let you in?
Stranger in town. Just catching the sights.
Well, they're better outside.
Ease off, Regan. You don't know who you're talking to.
Yeah, the name's a blank, but you drive a red Austin.
Yeah, it's not bad for a beginner. Hey, got a drink around?
Not for you, no.
If I were you, I'd show a little hospitality to an out-of-town boy.
Chicago. South Side, huh?
You're not being very nice.
You weren't invited.
But now that I'm here, that changes some things, huh?
What do you want?
A drink.
No sale.
Listen, fresh
Get
guy.
your hands off me, punk.
Argue against this. 45 always stops him.
Like it did Lafarge.
How about getting old Gus a drink, huh? 3 finger will do. Skip the water. You better fix one for yourself.
No, you're the type that drinks alone.
Oh, you better have one, Regan. It's going to be your last.
How do you figure?
Well, I look at it this way. A guy like me gets hired to do a job. Comes 2,000 miles for it, then pulls a boner.
Like knocking off the daughter instead of Lafarge, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Top that off with a witness sitting in the same room who spots my red Austin. Now, let me ask you something. Can I leave him around breathing good air? According to me, no.
Gus's knees knocked together and he caved in like arches on a fat man. 4 quick steps took me to the door and I looked down the hall. Nothing there. So I made it for the stairway and I looked down the spiral. An old guy was taking the steps 2 at a time and stuffing a gun into his overcoat pocket. It was Bill Lafarge.
You were listening to the story of the man who fought back. Tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator. Commissions are still available in the Army Nurse Corps. Graduate registered nurses between the ages of 21 and 45 may qualify for service with this fine organization. Nurses may request active or inactive status. Those on active status enjoy the same privileges as regular Army officers. Those on inactive status may continue their civilian nursing duties, but stand ready to serve in time of emergency. If you are interested in joining the Army Nurse Corps and believe that you qualify for a commission, apply to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. And now, back to the story of the man who fought back and Jeff Regan, investigator.
Well, things were moving kind of fast. The Lion sent me out to meet a girl named Alice Lafarge. She took me to her father, who wanted a bonded witness to be able to testify to his whereabouts that weekend. That's when a couple of shots came through the window and cut down the daughter. Before homicide put in an appearance, Bill Lafarge was gone, and he didn't show again until Gus killed Alice and then came to see me. And then there was a big roll of money and a print shop in the picture, but it was all out of focus. Well, I moved back into my apartment. The Chicago hood was still there, lying on my rug, and I picked up the phone to call Lieutenant Sanducci. I'd just gotten a couple of numbers out when I caught a familiar smell. It was a load of taboo, and it was packing a .32.
Put the phone down, Regan.
Why?
Because I'm asking you nicely. Put it down. Homicide can wait. Gus isn't going anyplace.
You got a plan, lady?
Mm-hmm.
Well, get back to that print shop and you'll stay out of trouble.
Mr. Preston's so nice. He gave me the afternoon off. I told him my mother got sick.
All right, lady, tell me about it.
I'm looking for something.
Name it.
The ignition key to Gus's Austin. Now move over there and get it for me.
What's wrong with your car?
I ran out of gas. Move.
Okay.
Kick his gun away. Now try the overcoat pockets. Throw him.
All right. Good catch.
So they tell me. So long, Regan.
I put in a quick call to homicide, and then I waited a couple of minutes to give her a chance to get a head start. When I stepped out of the building, the red Austin was just turning the corner. I followed in my car. We wound up in Glendale. She pulled into a duplex driveway next to an empty lot, and I pulled in under a pepper tree up the street a ways. And then she got out and unlocked the trunk. She looked inside, ripped up the floor matting and then the boards. When she slammed the trunk shut, it figured that she didn't find what she was looking for. Well, 25 minutes later, I found the lion sitting behind his desk down at the office. He had a bottle of beer in one hand and a package of Sen-Sen in the other. Spread out in front of him was a typewritten piece of paper that he'd just slipped out of his Remington. He had a puzzled look, like a little boy caught in a mixmaster.
Regan, where you been?
Around.
I've been looking all over for you. Sanducci's been calling in every 3 minutes.
What's he want?
The story on how Gus got laid out in your apartment.
Well, I'll drop him a note.
He wants it now.
He's got time. He doesn't come up for a pension for years. They turn up Lafarge yet?
No, but I turned up something. What would you say if I told you Lafarge did time once?
On a counterfeit rap?
How'd you know?
It figured. That lowest name is scratching around for something.
The feds put him away for 10 years for making up some phony bonds or stocks or something like that.
Uh-huh. How's his daughter fit?
She waited for him till he got out and then tried to help him play it straight.
What'd you get on Gus?
Who cares about him?
Lois.
Lafarge wasn't in on that bond job alone.
Who else?
He had a partner, the guy who runs the print shop, Preston.
Oh, you're doing better.
I figure it this way. Preston's got a new racket, and J. Edgar would be real happy to know all about it.
Yeah.
We're going to be the ones to tell him.
How much is the reward?
I don't even know if there is one.
Oh, stop it. When gold went up to $35 an ounce, you pulled your mother's teeth.
Regan, you're getting out of line.
And then you bawled her out for not having more cavities.
Now, you get over to Preston and have a talk with him.
Yeah.
Regan.
Yeah?
Remember, if we crack this thing, it'll mean more money in your pocket, too.
There's no room for it with your hand there already. I left him sitting there doodling dollar signs, and I went out into the street. It was turning evening. I picked my car out of the lot, and 30 minutes later, I stopped on the corner of Santa Monica and La Brea. The fog was rolling in by then, and the streetlights were trying real hard. I walked to the front door of the print shop. I shook it a little, but nothing gave, so I moved around to the back. The place inside was as dark as a saloon in Kansas, but somebody inside was handy with a gun. So I cracked the window with a rock, and I climbed inside. It smelled like target practice on a rifle range. Preston was curled up on the floor like a piece of wet tissue paper, and there were 2 holes in him. Well, the game wasn't over, but they were running out of players. I moved for the phone to call the police, and that's when I spotted Bill Lafarge. He was slumped down in a chair with a gun in his hand, and he looked tired. It took a lot of shaking to bring any words out of him. Hey, come on, Lafarge. Hey.
Stop shaking. I'm up. He dead?
Yeah?
Yeah, he was a bum.
You want to give me that gun?
Sure. You got a call into the cops?
No, not yet.
We'll use my car.
Any way you want it.
It don't matter much no more. Things go easy for some guys. Other guys get all the rocks.
You got a couple of answers?
Why not? Preston did a tie-in with a gambling syndicate out of Las Vegas. Some joker had a hot idea.
Keep going.
Counterfeit 20,000 New Year's Day bowl tickets and sell them on the open market at $5 plus.
That's big business at 100,000.
But I didn't take. Preston got sore because I wouldn't do the engraving and he got somebody else.
That doesn't add up to murder.
Yeah. Did when his head got working overtime worry and I had too many answers.
And he hired that Chicago boy with the bad eyes.
Yeah. He got my daughter by mistake.
Where are the bowl tickets?
Who cares?
How does Lois fit?
I don't know.
All right.
Front door's closer to my car. You drive, Regan. LA traffic makes me nervous.
Well, Lafarge was driving a Nash, and it was parked at a filling station. We fought the night traffic downtown to police headquarters and tore Sanducci away from his pinochle game. He sent a couple of boys out to clean up the print shop and then moved Lafarge into a room with a secretary to get the story on paper. I'd heard it before, so I started for home, but Sanducci had other ideas. He put me in a private little room with white walls, and he told me to wait. I thought maybe he'd gone on his vacation, but he finally came in.
Yeah, getting tired of waiting, Regan?
Do you care?
No.
You got something to say?
Maybe.
Well, then spit it out, because I got a date.
It'll keep.
Why are you holding me?
I had to do some checking.
You got all you need?
I didn't think so.
Well, you got it now.
Sit still, Regan. I'm not ready to let you go.
Now, listen, Power. Just because you're wearing a badge inside that coat...
Shut up and listen to me. It took me 18 years to turn in those overstuffed shoes for thin soles. I'm not letting a two-bit detective tell me how to handle my business.
You can stand it.
You and that crummy boss of yours are licensed by the state of California, and we can lift it for acts detrimental to public welfare. We got a whole blotter full.
Tell that to the lion.
I'm telling it to you. Now, that's all. Beat it.
Okay.
Oh, Regan.
Yeah?
One thing more. There's a big hole in Lafarge's story.
What do you mean?
Look at his gun.
Well, what about it?
Look at the caliber.
It's a .38.
That's not the weapon that killed Gus and Preston. You sure you don't own a .32?
Well, Lafarge was more used up than he figured. He couldn't tell where the dream left off and the murders began. Oh, the whole thing was a screwy picture, but the artist had a woman's touch. 25 minutes later, I pulled my car to a stop in front of a lemon-colored duplex out in Glendale. A high school boy, breathing hard, told me that the good-looking girl lived upstairs. I just hit the top of the landing when the door of her apartment opened and a couple of pieces of airplane luggage moved out. Her ticket didn't show, but it figured to be marked for Las Vegas. When Lois saw me, she looked kind of confused, like a penguin in Death Valley.
Regan.
Hey, your memory's good.
I wish you'd told me you were coming. I'd have dressed for it.
Oh, it's better this way. You're fixed for traveling.
What do you mean?
We'll talk about it inside, huh?
I'd like to. You know that, but I have a few things...
Come on, move it, lady.
Well, what's come over you?
What's inside the suitcase?
You can work that out yourself, Regan. You've been by a woman's shop.
Throw it open.
It'll embarrass you.
I'll take a chance. All right, now dump it over. Come on, sis. Your time's running out. Oh, yeah, sure.
Preston had the tickets in an asbestos box hidden in the furnace. I finally turned them up. Regan, they're worth over $100,000.
Yeah, that's what Lafarge said.
I know where to unload them.
It won't do you any good.
What do you mean?
There's no P exit to Hatchetby. Come on, don't scramble for that .32. It's out of reach.
Let go of me.
You threw those holes into Gus and Preston, figuring homicide would stick Lafarge with a rap, knowing he was out for revenge.
Let me go.
Even the old guy didn't know what was going on.
No, he didn't.
No, but ballistics did.
Regan.
Yeah.
This could mean a lot of dough to us, you and me. We form a partnership.
Yeah, your forehead's getting damp.
Don't be a piker. Here's your chance to really turn into something.
Well, now you can check with me when you get out, lady, to see if I made it. Well, it all blew apart fast like an atom at Caltech. Sanducci came down and picked up Lois. She had herself a pretty good thing for a while. Preston could run off the phony bowl tickets, and all she had to do was to sell them. Even though murder got thrown in, she could have stayed clean if she hadn't got her gun calibers mixed. Well, Lafarge was walking the streets in a couple of hours, and the Lion was real happy the way things worked out. He got his picture in the Police Gazette and picked up 2 bona fide passes to the Rose Bowl game. He promised to take me to the game with him. He did. He let me have the ticket at the regular price.
Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan with Herb Butterfield as Anthony J. Lyon. It's CBS at the same time next week for more hard-boiled action and mystery with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Written by Larry Roman, produced by Sterling Tracy. Alice was played by Lorette Philbrandt. Charles Seal was Preston. Ken Christie was Lafarge. Jack Petruzzi was Sanducci. Yvonne Patey was Lois. And Sidney Miller was Gus. 29,000 nurses are needed now to join the new Army Nurse Corps Officers Reserve. For the first time in history, qualified nurses have the opportunity of receiving commissions in the regular Army Reserve. These nurses will remain on inactive status, ready to serve their country in time of emergency. 4,000 of them, if they wish, may choose active duty. All nurses who receive commissions will benefit from the opportunity for specialized training offered to them by the Army. Inactive reserve status will not interfere with the nurse's civilian life, but the educational opportunities offered her by the Army Medical Department will be of great advantage in her work. So don't wait. If you're a registered graduate nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, drop a card for complete information to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. Original music for this program is by Milton Charles. Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, some clever twist in this one, not the least of which was the gun. That really surprised me. Another good one in the books. All right, well, we have some comments to get into from listeners. Josh emails in from Wellington, New Zealand. Dear Adam Graham of Boise, Idaho, just saying thanks for doing the show. You do a brilliant job. I've just got into old-time radio and so really appreciate the additional historical info in your intros, plus the fact that there's a new show every day. Thanks, man. Well, thanks, Josh. That's actually where my... I mentioned that I have a novel unrelated to old-time radio, except for a couple homages to The Shadow, and my publisher actually lives in New Zealand, so it's interesting where we get emails and contacts from, and he's got the app, so thanks so much for that. And speaking of the app, your extra for this month is extra special. This will be the last time we have a Jack Webb extra on the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. And so we're doing a double feature of The Whistler, 2 episodes of The Whistler starring Jack Webb, and that's available with either the app or our premium site. So feel free to listen to and enjoy those. A couple of really nice comments from Podcast Alley. Adam does a great job providing programs and commentary, and also a awesome show comment. And then we'll get this from Matthew, who encourages everyone to go and vote on Podcast Alley. He says, come on, guys, vote. I would love to see Adam in the top 10. Well, thanks so much, Matt, and thanks so much for everybody who has voted. I encourage people to do that every month. I think we might make it in September, if not before, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next month. Well, we have been without an official sponsor for our first 8+ months of existence. I'm pleased that we're going to go ahead and end that as we welcome GoToMeeting as our new sponsor. And we'll be telling you about GoToMeeting in a little bit. I want to thank everyone who has used or tried the great products we have mentioned here with Netflix and Audible and 1&1 and Johnny Dollar Air. With the exception of JohnnyDollarAir.com, we're not going to mention any of the others on the air. And we'll only do Johnny Dollar Air once a week, so we don't get overwhelmed with ads. We'll still mention the app on the premium site when it's called for, like when we're adding something there. But thanks so much to everyone's support the first 8 months, and looking forward to a very good third quarter of 2010. Well, before we do get started, I do want to let you know about GoToMeeting. Have you ever wanted to be in 2 places at once? With GoToMeeting, you can catch your child's ball game and meet with those important new clients in Miami through the power of web conferencing. GoToMeeting is from Citrix, the makers of the trusted GoToMyPC product. Like GoToMyPC, it's simple to use and doesn't require you to learn new technology. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast. Now let's get into today's episode of Let George Do It, The Malignant Heart.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Malignant Heart. Another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If you're getting your brains knocked out and are just hanging on until the gong sounds, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, how do you explain this in a man? At 38, he's retired. A millionaire, yet he steals a trinket from a 5 and 10 cent store. Makes sure he's caught, and then merely laughs. He stands aside and lets his own father work as a night watchman. This man is my husband, and I love him for what he was before he changed into this thing of evil.
Into this thing of evil during the last year. I must find out what's happened to Walter. Won't you please come out to my home as soon as possible? And it's signed, yours most urgently, Edna Pallister.
Oh, you know, Brooksy, sometimes I think Lieutenant Riley is right.
Well, you're exceptionally charitable today, George.
Well, it does seem that all the characters in the lunatic fringe find their way to us.
Yeah, I guess we just get all the breaks. But how do you account for a Walter Pallister?
How do you account for a Walter Pallister? Well, given a minimum of human curiosity, Brooksy, that's the question we can't pass up. You're an intelligent woman, Mrs. Pallister. It hardly seems necessary to tell you your husband needs a psychiatrist.
Do you think I haven't tried that?
Well, what happened?
At the end of the interview, Walter gave the doctor an inferiority complex. You see, my husband is a very brilliant man.
Oh, I'm sure there's another word for him. But as you said in your letter, you love him.
For what he used to be, Mr. Valentine. Good and kind.
All right, now, okay. You implied there are other incidents, besides the theft in the 5 and 10, and being the kind of son that's hardly a comfort to anybody in his old age.
Mr. Valentine, I hardly know where to start.
Well, when did you first notice this change in your husband, Mrs. Pallister?
Well, we're not overly religious. But we used to go to church every Sunday.
Yeah?
And for no reason at all, there was that Sunday shortly after he retired. He dropped me off at the church, and then he said loudly so everyone could hear, "I'm going to put in a few rounds of golf, and I'll see you later, darling, when you're through with your pagan rituals."
Oh, well, Mrs. Pallister, you might be attaching too much importance to that. He may not have been himself that morning, and a lot of people skip church once in a while.
Yes, I know. I only mention it because that was the first time I noticed a change in Walter's character.
Oh, I didn't know you had company, Mrs. Pallister.
Well, you could have knocked Lucy. What do you want?
I know this is my day off, but I'm taking the afternoon off to go into town and do some shopping. Some personal shopping.
Why do you take the trouble to announce it? Apparently I have nothing to say about it.
I just thought you'd like to know. If you've got any complaints about me, you can take them to Mr. Pallister.
I'm sorry for the interruption, Mr. Valentine.
Your, maid?
Yes. Why don't I fire her?
Sure, what's the matter? Is she under contract? Why don't you just bounce her out the front door?
I can't. Walter again.
How's that?
He likes her here.
Well, that's a real cozy arrangement. But being slightly feminine myself, you know what I do? Well, Oh, sorry, Mrs. Pallister.
It's all right. All our friends talk about Walter and Lucy. He made sure they would. But you know, she doesn't really mean anything to him. That's just one more thing I don't understand about him.
You know, I'm beginning not to understand him at all.
Yes, I know. It's not going to be easy to find a reason for anything my husband's done in the last year. Look, you see this house? No, this whole estate, for instance.
Well, it's very beautiful.
It's not very easy living in it.
What does that mean?
All this used to belong to my husband's partner. Meant everything to him. But Walter decided that he wanted it, and he got it. Even if it meant ruining a man so he'd have to sell it.
Well, it seems your husband isn't going to be happy till he becomes Mr. Obnoxious of 1948.
Mr. Valentine, there must be an explanation. And I owe it to Walter to find out what's happened. You've got to help me.
You know, they don't make them like you very often, Miss Pallister. I don't know exactly what I can do, but one thing is sure. I'll have to meet Mr. Pallister and talk to him.
Where is he?
Probably in the kennels. Down there near the caretaker's cottage. Sometimes it seems to me those vicious dogs are the only thing he cares about these days.
I don't mean to be cynical, Mrs. Pallister, but I don't know how to approach your husband. What do I say? You've been a naughty boy, Walter, so come on and tell the nice man why.
Just do what you can. Anyway, he's probably expecting you. You can be sure that Lucy was eavesdropping.
Oh, well, in that case, Brooksy, I guess we can expect anything.
George, I think they're coming after us.
Hey, Pallister, just a minute. We want to talk to you.
Go on, get him. His throat, General. That's the boy.
Hey, get him off of me.
Now you've got him, General.
Oh, you don't. Pallister, if you don't call those hounds off, I'll shoot all three of them.
All right, now back. Go on, go on. What have you done to General? He's my best dog.
What have I done? Did you hear the man, Brooksy?
Oh, never mind that. Are you all right, darling?
Okay. Except it feels strange standing around with one sleeve missing.
Let me have that gun.
Hey, wait a minute. What? Now, you didn't have to do that, Pallister.
The dog wasn't hurt.
On the contrary, he was. I believe your name is Valentine.
Oh, did Lucy give you my Social Security number, too?
And you wanted to talk to me. I think we'll be much more comfortable back in the library. Sorry to keep you waiting, Valentine. Mrs. Pallister has been unnerved by all the excitement.
I can imagine.
I insisted she take a sedative and lie down. Well, is there anything I can get you?
Well, you could run out and buy Mr. Valentine a new suit.
Okay. That's our quota for small talk.
Splendid. Now...
Mr. Pallister, I came right over as soon as I got your call.
Come in, Haggerty. Miss Brooks, Valentine, I'd like you to meet the gentleman who keeps the peace in our little village. Chief Haggerty.
Hi. Where is this fellow you was telling me about?
I think he means me, Chief. Okay, Pallister, what's the payoff this time?
Haggerty, although there's a sign down at the gate that distinctly says no trespassing and beware of dogs, this man invaded my property and deliberately killed one of my best hounds.
And this man is a diamond-studded liar.
Now, young lady, there's no call for language like that.
You'll find 2 bullets missing from his gun, Haggerty. It was a wanton killing of a defenseless creature.
Oh, I don't know. I let him bite me first.
What charges do you want to make against Mr. Pallister? Now, according to the book...
Well, you know I'm generous to a fault, Chief. I just don't like to see the law flouted. How about a small fine?
Anything you say, Mr. Pallister. That'll be $25, young feller.
Now, wait a minute. Look.
And you can pay up right now, because I'm the justice of the peace around here, too.
Okay.
Well, now I've seen everything.
If he gives you any more trouble, Mr. Pallister, you let me know. I'll really make it tough for him.
You and Napoleon, eh, Walter?
Oh, Valentine, don't look so grim. That was beautiful. Oh, can't you appreciate it? All right. Here's your $25.
If you don't do something about him, George, I'm going to turn into a great big tomboy.
Are you through enjoying yourself, Pallister?
Don't you see, Valentine? As the law would say, I perjured myself against you, and I got the biggest laugh I've had in a long time. And why?
Go on.
My wife hired you to delve into the aberrations of my twisted psyche. Well, I wanted to give you something to think about. I suppose you've had enough now?
The only reason I let you have your fun is that I've decided to go to work for Mrs. Pallister, even though I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Fine.
You mean you don't mind?
On the contrary, I'm intrigued with the possibility. In fact, I insist that you stay right on here as our guests.
In fact, I wouldn't think of refusing such hospitality.
Very well. Come along, Valentine. I'll let you have one of my suits. Oh, I believe Lucy is back now. She'll show you to your room, Miss Brooks.
Oh, thanks. I think I'd feel a lot safer if I found it myself.
And then we can get together here in the library again and go on with this fascinating inquiry as to why I'm such an unholy brute.
The water's going to be down in a minute. Please, listen. You and Miss
Brooks must leave. You've got to.
Wait a minute. Why the turnabout, Mrs. Pallister?
I should think you'd need us here.
Look, he's capable of anything. After what happened today, I realized I have no right to ask anybody to share this with me. He might have been killed.
And if I assure you we can take care of ourselves?
You don't know him. He's so diabolically clever. I'll just have to make up my mind to leave him.
Well, frankly, I can think of harder decisions to make.
Now, you must go. I think he's planning something right now.
Edna,
Walter?
go upstairs this moment and bathe your eyes. You're hardly an appetizing sight, my dear, as a hostess.
Well, I was only...
I said go upstairs.
Walter.
Hey, wait a minute. Let her go, Pallister, or I'll have to take this little game off the drawing room level.
Oh, sorry. Now, darling, will you go and see about dinner? Well, did you have a chance to look around? Did you notice this little Hindu idol in the corner, for instance?
The ugliest thing I've ever seen.
It's been a constant source of inspiration to me. Those tentacles, you see, are the forces of evil, reaching out, claiming everything.
Uh-huh.
I beg pardon?
Oh, nothing.
You know, Valentine, it was a melancholy thought to find out that at 38, I'd been successful, vastly successful, at everything I put my mind to.
Poor you.
Oh, you're quite right. All the zest, the challenge, is gone. I can understand the fits of depression Alexander the Great had when he found out he'd conquered the world and there was nothing else left.
Well, would it be impolite if I said I was hungry?
Forgive me, Miss Brooks. I'll see what the delay is.
Oh, boy.
Well, if he isn't mad, what's the pattern to all this?
Well, whatever Pallister's got must be contagious. What are you mumbling about?
Brooksy, he isn't going about this haphazardly. He's got a goal. There's a method, a pattern.
Oh, George, he's the grown-up edition of the kid next door who used to tear the wings off butterflies.
Nothing so simple, Angel. But how about this for a weird notion? Buster's out to break every law, man-made or moral, that he can think of, one by one and with great fanfare. He prefers having somebody know what he's doing, so he can get a real kick out of getting away with it.
Well, it's a weirdie, all right, but I don't understand it.
Pallister is not just a Peck's bad boy. He imagines himself an undersized Superman. He stole from the 5 and 10, and the Pallister name saved him from any embarrassment.
All right.
All right, he wanted this estate, so he ruined his partner to get it. He turned the dogs on us, and I paid a fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and look what he's doing to his farm.
Yeah, Brooksy, every decency, one by one. That benighted character thinks that's the one way he can really prove his power.
Yeah, but even so, I don't see what we can do to help poor Mrs. Pallister.
Brooksy, we've got to do something.
What do you mean, George?
A man like Pallister never stops till he brings things to a logical conclusion. And you can see him driving toward it now.
Huh?
I told you, Brooksy, he's out to break every law. And I don't think he'll be satisfied until he's committed murder.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, if your car misbehaves in city traffic, acts like it's had about as much get up and go as a snail, there are two things you can do. One, you can just steel yourself to impatient horns and stony stares. But a happier way out is this second one. Just switch to Chevron Supreme gasoline. For special blending agents in this premium quality gasoline assure speedy pickup in stop-and-go traffic. And they give your car all the go-ahead it needs when the lights flash green. Chevron Supreme's blended, too, for that extra power your car needs on hills. Another thing, it's climate-tailored to bring out your car's pep and power in each different altitude and temperature zone. So wherever you go in the West, rely on Chevron Supreme for smoother performance. Independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations are proud to offer you this great premium quality gasoline. No wonder they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Walter Pallister, a success at everything he touches, has focused his dark, brooding mind on what he considers the supreme proof of his power. He's determined to deliberately break every law and get away with it. So far, only George and Brooksy have succeeded in guessing what he's doing, and you can't help feeling that he won't rest until he's committed murder, all of which doesn't make breakfast at the Pallister home a very festive occasion.
Let's see, Valentine. You and Miss Brooks have been with us more than 12 hours now. I'm afraid it's been very dull.
Oh, I can remember more boring occasions. For instance, the time I got my hand caught in a meat grinder.
Walter, won't you finish your coffee?
Please, Edna. Since everyone is so glum, Miss Brooks, let's see if I can make you laugh.
Well, the only place I'm ticklish is on the bottom of my feet.
A droll thought just occurred to me. Imagine the noble Sir Galahad going out to slay the fire-breathing dragon and suddenly finding himself with a rubber spear. You ought to know what I mean, Valentine.
Ha ha. Very funny.
I think all of us have finished. Why don't we all...
Wait, I have an idea how to liven up things. Why don't we all pack up and go up to my lodge in Wisconsin for a couple of days? Skiing, a little shooting. Oh, Lucy, come on in here.
Walter, this really isn't the time.
Your husband seems to have made up his mind, Mrs. Pallister, so there couldn't be a better time.
Did you call me, Walt? Mr. Pallister?
Get upstairs and start packing. We're going on a little vacation, and you're coming along too, Lucy.
Oh, I just know we'll have loads of fun.
Go on, Edna.
Why don't you go along with Mrs. Pallister, Brooksy?
Okay, George. Maybe she can tell me where I can dig up a pair of red flannels.
Tell me, friend, what is it you can do on the snowy slopes of Wisconsin that you can't do in this house?
Just a notion. I haven't been up to the lodge in 2 years. You know, the last time I was up there, I brought down a running rabbit at 100 yards with a .22. That's perfect shooting.
Shut up, Pallister.
Do I get on your nerves?
Which one of us is it going to be? Have you decided?
What are you talking about?
Aren't you about ready to decide that you're big enough to get away with murder?
Well, what do you know? I guess I've underrated you, Valentine.
But you won't get away with it, Pallister.
So finally I've met someone with perception enough to see the reasoning behind my little game. Heaven knows I've given enough clues. I made it obvious what I was doing.
You know, there's never yet been a Superman who hasn't stubbed his toe trying to do what you're doing.
Which makes the game all the more exhilarating. Yes, especially now that you know that you can't do anything about it.
You sure?
If you went to the police, they'd laugh at you. Of course, the simplest thing you could do would be to bow out of the picture.
Oh, no. That might deprive you of some of that exhilaration you were talking about. The appreciative audience.
Good. Then you'd better run along and pack, too. Oh, Valentine.
Yeah?
Don't forget to include your rubber spear. What do you think of Lucy, everybody? She's beginning to ski like a champion.
Oh, and only in 3 days, mind you. Oh, I knew this was going to be loads of fun.
I'm doing pretty well myself. Only 3 days and I can stand up on these things.
That's funny, Brooksy. That's never the way I find it.
Miss Brooks hasn't had the advantage of Walter's undivided attention.
Come on, Lucy. Before we leave, you're going to be able to ski down the whole north run right from the top of the hill to the road.
You really think I could, Walter?
I better go in and see about lunch. It's obvious Lucy isn't going to have time to prepare it.
Well, I'll be in a minute to help you, Mrs. Pallister. Oh, George, be a good guy and kiss me, will you?
Oh, no fair if I have to be good.
Thanks. Now, would you mind saying something funny?
Now, what's the matter? Ain't you scared?
You bet I'm scared. That man gives me the willies. It's like a shadow on us all the time.
Yeah, he makes me feel like a Boy Scout, and I don't like it. But there's nothing I can do.
He probably has it all planned. It could be any one of us.
Yeah. Depending on which one suits his vanity.
Have you had even a small guess what he's up to?
Oh, Brooksy, I can't follow Pallister around like a bloodhound. All I can do is keep my eyes open and try to keep one step ahead of him.
Horrible to think he might be able to kill and get away with it. Just the way he has with everything else.
I'm not worried now about his getting away with it. But how to keep him from committing murder?
You can't stop me, Mr. Valentine. We're leaving in a half hour, and I'm going to make that north run down the hill.
I'm not going to let you do it, Lucy.
What right have you to tell me what to do?
Now, Lucy, Valentine may be right. It is a little dangerous.
I don't care. I'm going to do it. I'll show you how good I am, Walter. Just watch me. Do we have to stand here in the road all day? What's the matter with that girl? Why doesn't she stop?
Don't be impatient, my dear. Have we got everything in the station wagon? Oh, come to think of it, we left all the skis down by the mailbox. I'll be right back.
I see Lucy up there now.
It's about time. Here she comes.
Oh, look at her. She's really showing off, isn't she?
Oh, golly. Oh, George, you've got to admit she's pretty good. Look at her pick-up speed.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she got by the first turn.
Well, now all she has to do is make that last turn around the tree, and it'll be easy going down the road.
Yeah, that's all she's got to do.
Oh, nothing's happened. She's losing her balance towards the tree.
No, come on, let's get up there.
Oh.
Not that it'll do any good.
Oh, it's horrible. She smashed right into the tree.
Oh,
George.
Fool. Why didn't she listen to us, Valentine?
You knew she wouldn't listen, Palliser. You had her all hopped up about making that run. You know that one slip taking that turn, and Lucy'd be a jigsaw puzzle for the undertaker.
It was an accident.
As much of an accident as this.
Oh, Mr. Valentine, don't.
I hope that made you feel better, Sir Galahad. But it doesn't change the fact that it was an accident.
Well, sorry to take so long getting back here from the mortuary, but I don't think I'll have to detain you folks much longer here.
We're hardly worried about that at a time like this, Sheriff.
And the coroner just had to take one look at the poor girl. It was too bad.
And that's that, eh, Sheriff?
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Valentine. Now, if you people will just sign this paper as witnesses to the accident, they will satisfy the state of Minnesota, and they will satisfy me. Here, Mrs. Palliser, if you will be kind enough.
Yes.
Oh, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
You said the coroner just had to take one look at Lucy.
Sure, that's what I said.
I'm sure he's not too busy to take a second look. With me.
I'll have my fingers crossed till you get back, George.
Till you get back? Why, we were just sitting here waiting to leave.
Sorry, Superman. You'll just have to go on sitting and wait.
It was a natural mistake, Mr. Valentine. After what happened, I just assumed
Don't
that...
take it too hard, Coroner. At first, I assumed the same thing, too.
Why did you want me to stop by the mailbox, Valentine? Nobody's leaving any mail this time of day.
What I'm looking for, Sheriff, was left much earlier. Yeah, but it's got to be around here in the snow somewhere, Sheriff.
No, this is a mighty lot of snow.
Hey, yeah?
Looky here.
That's it, a high-powered 22.
I can't believe it. You mean...
You're talking about a man who's perfect at everything. He can bring a running rabbit down at 100 yards. All right. Since you all seem so incredulous, I'll skip right down to the words of one syllable department.
Doesn't matter. Walter, I won't believe it. You couldn't have done it.
Thank you, Edna. There you are, Valentine. I'm vindicated.
I should have known you wouldn't leave anything to chance, Palliser. When Lucy was about to make that ski run, you went down the road to pick up the skis you planted there previously.
Wouldn't that be rather hard to prove?
Around the curve of the road, we couldn't see you, but you were there all right, this rifle in hand. You had a bead on Lucy every second. When she came to that curve by the tree, you let her have it.
But, George, we didn't hear a shot.
A silencer took care of that.
And a telescopic sight brought Lucy as close as a floating duck in a shooting gallery.
Walter, why? Walter, why?
You wouldn't understand, my dear, even if I told you. The whole magnificent concept would be too big for your mind.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, it doesn't matter, Sheriff. Only the facts matter now. Palliser, you killed Lucy Irwin with a malignant and abandoned heart, as it states so beautifully in a murder indictment.
Yes?
And another fact. You're going to pay for it with your life.
Oh, no.
What's he laughing?
Walter!
Oh, that's where you're wrong, Valentine. I'm not going to be destroyed, as threatened when you flout all your precious conventions. I'm going to go right on living. even though it may be in jail for a while.
Oh, how do you figure that?
Why, didn't you know? There's no capital punishment in the state of Wisconsin.
Oh, you're so right, Pallister, as always. But you're in the sovereign state of Minnesota. Or didn't you hear the sheriff say that before?
What? What did you say?
Explain it to him, Sheriff, as you explained it to me.
Well, folks have been disputing this little corner of the state for years now. We had a special referendum last election. We decided we want to be in Minnesota.
You're lying. Oh, you're making all this up. You can't...
And in Minnesota, Pallister, they have capital punishment.
Oh, golly, it's good to get back to the office. I don't think I'll ever get warm again.
You'll thaw out, Angel. You'll thaw out. So let's get busy and see what mail's piled up, huh?
Okay. Hey, what is this? Sarcasm?
What do you mean?
A circular, look. Spend your honeymoon in Paradise Valley. Have fun in this winter wonderland. Skiing, ice skating, tobogganing. Oh, no.
Oh, no honeymoon?
Well, I'd rather skip the honeymoon if it means winter sports.
Hey, you know, back in New England, there used to be a winter sport called bundling. Highly recommended.
Oh, darling, you're wonderful. Well, if that's the case, we could even go to the North Pole.
If you're looking for ways to cut corners that will make your budget go further, listen to this. It's a statement by Mr. O.C. Blackburn of Van Nuys, California, who uses compounded RPM motor oil in his car. He says, quote, I use RPM for economy. RPM, I know, reduces wear, lengthens engine life, and lowers repair cost on my car, unquote. And like thousands of other Western motorists, you'll find you can make car operation a more thrifty deal when you rely on RPM motor oil. How does RPM do it? By fighting off your car's worst enemy, internal engine rust, by stopping carbon trouble, and by clinging to internal engine hot spots left bare and exposed to wear by ordinary motor oils. So for real economy, why not start tomorrow? Get a crankcase drain and a refill with RPM motor oil. Get it at any standard station or independent Chevron gas station where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll find George studying a new letter that has just reached him.
Dear Mr. Valentine, a man should be able to do anything to hold the woman he loves. But I'm not strong enough. I need your help desperately. I shall be at your office in the morning to tell you the whole story. Yours truly, Bruno Terrell.
Next week, a new case for George, the Fabulous Fatso. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California. On behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire.
Welcome back. Well, this was a very well done episode. I think most people have seen or heard of modern works that have taken similar story themes of someone trying to break all the 10 Commandments. The one movie I've heard of and not seen that most stands out in my mind is a 1997 film, Commandments. This one's a little different as it takes the violations of the commandments to be far more serious. And this really, it does give you a peek back into the values of the time. In a way, I don't think any other show any other show has. I found this just to be a fascinating episode. All right, well, we have a few quick comments here before we depart. Tom comments on iTunes. This is so cool to listen to. They were originally produced before my time, but I love you can follow the story so easily by how well it was written and the sounds of the action. And thanks to the people or person who makes this possible. Well, thanks. And then one more comment. This is the real deal, as Adam might say. It's a real treasure for those of us who love old-time radio mystery and detective stories. Well, thanks so much. Much appreciated. All right, well, I also want to welcome David, who gave a good tip, and we'll actually be sending him a year subscription to our premium site. And we're going to wrap up shortly here. I do want to remind you that this Sunday, it's Bob Hope, Dorothy Lamour, in My Favorite Brunette. You're going to enjoy that film. Great Bob Hope detective comedy. Features Peter Lorre, Lon Chaney Jr., and I hope you'll enjoy it. We begin with a question from Facebook. This comes from Michelle, who writes in, whatever happened to Dr. Watson's wife? Did I miss episodes? No, Michelle, you didn't miss a thing. Here, briefly, is what happened. It's the show structure. The episodes are not told in chronological order. And a lot of Holmes series do that. They skip around to tell stories in time. Sherlock Holmes is really set and fixed in time. Specifically about a 27-year period between 1887 and 1914. And any given Thursday, your episode could fall anywhere in that 27-year range. It gives the writers a great deal of flexibility. But it also means there's no continuity. The only old-time radio show I know of to skip around with its chronology was Horatio Hornblower. Of course, when C.S. Forster wrote Horatio Hornblower, he didn't release those in strict chronological orders. But even with the Hornblower series, you would have a long story arc that would follow a story from beginning to end in chronological order, and then it would go somewhere else in Horatio Hornblower's life. This there's from one episode to the next, there's no chronological continuity. So that's what happened to Dr. Watson's wife. Thanks for the question so much, and we're going to get into today's episode in just a second. Before we do, I'd like to let you know about GoToMeeting. That can be a challenge to grow your business. It seems that there are a never-ending list of activities that eat into a limited amount of time. That's why I'm so glad to bring GoToMeeting on as a sponsor, because GoToMeeting allows you to do more with the time you have. Whether it saves you a plane trip to Japan, a trip across town, GoToMeeting saves you time and money on travel. It can also give you greater flexibility in your scheduling. With GoToMeeting, you can have a meeting with potential clients in Los Angeles and then immediately afterwards be able to connect with vendors in San Diego through the convenience of GoToMeeting web conferencing. Listeners to the great detectives of old-time radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast. Now let's get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, A Scandal in Bohemia.
Transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And you know something? I had an adventure tonight I wish you could have shared with me. I had a steak about, an inch and a half thick, tender and juicy, and with it I had a glass of Petri California Burgundy. Now there's a combination. Steak and Petri Burgundy. That Petri Burgundy is a perfect mealtime wine. It's a rich red wine that's hearty and full of flavor that comes right from the heart of the grape. And don't think that Petri Burgundy is only good with steak. It'll make a hamburger sandwich taste like a feast, too. Try Petri Burgundy with any meat or meat dish. It's just wonderful. And serve it proudly, too, because after all, the name Petri is the proudest name in the history of American wines. And now I know Dr. Watson's waiting for us, so let's go in and join him.
Come in.
Good evening, Dr. Watson.
Good evening, Mr. Bartell. You're quite muffled up tonight, I see. Overcoat, scarf, and gloves. Slip 'em off and come and join me by the fire.
Thanks, Doctor. Quite a nip in the air tonight.
Yes, there is indeed.
Well, Doctor, you told us last week that tonight's story centered around the activities of a brilliant and beautiful woman.
Yes, my boy. Her name was Irene Adler, but I never knew Holmes to refer to her by any other name than the woman.
She sounds mighty intriguing. How did you happen to meet up with her?
Well, I'll tell you the story from the beginning. One night, it was on the 20th of March, 1888, to be exact, I was returning home from a visit to a patient when my steps led me through Baker Street. Since my marriage, I hadn't seen much of Sherlock Holmes.
And you couldn't resist stopping by 221B, I'm sure, Doctor.
Of course I couldn't. As I stood outside the well-remembered door, I looked up at the lighted windows and saw the tall, spare figure of my old friend pass twice in dark silhouette against the blind. He was pacing the room swiftly, eagerly, with his head sunk on his chest and his hands clasped behind him. To me, who knew his every mood and habit, his attitude and manner told their own story. He was hot on the scent of some new problem. I rang the bell, and a few moments later, found myself standing before him.
Marriage suits you, Watson. You look in splendid shape.
Yes, I'm feeling very well, eh?
And in practice again, I see. You didn't tell me that you'd gone back into harness.
Oh, how do you know?
Elementary, my dear chap. If a gentleman walks into my rooms smelling of iodoform with a black mark of nitrate of silver on his right forefinger and a bulge on the left side of his hat to show where he has secreted his stethoscope, I should be dull indeed if I didn't pronounce him to be an active member of the medical profession.
Same as ever, Holmes. By the way, I'm not interrupting you, am I?
Yes, you are, old fellow, but it's a most welcome interruption.
You're working on a new case?
It looks like it. This letter arrived by the last post today. It's undated and has neither signature nor address. Read it.
Look. There will call upon you tonight at 7:45 a gentleman who desires to consult you upon a matter of the very deepest moment. Your recent services to one of the royal houses of Europe have shown that you are one who may safely be trusted. This account of you we have from all quarters received. Be in your chamber, then, at that hour, and do not take it amiss if your visitor wears a mask. Great Scott, it all sounds very mysterious. What do you imagine it means?
Look carefully at the note, Watson. What do you deduce from it?
Well, let's see. Well, the man who wrote it was presumably well-to-do. Such paper couldn't be bought for under half a crown a packet. And it's peculiarly strong and stiff.
Peculiar. That's the very word. It's not an English paper at all. Hold it up to the light. You notice anything?
Yes. There's a large E with a small G, and a large G with a small T woven into the texture of the paper.
What does that suggest to you?
The name of the maker, no doubt, or perhaps his monogram.
Not at all, my dear fellow. The G with a small T stands for Gesellschaft, which is the German for company.
And the EG?
That stands for Igria. It's a German-speaking country in Bohemia, not far from Carlsbad.
So the paper was made in Bohemia?
Undoubtedly. The man who wrote the note is a German.
Well, how do you know that?
Observe the curious construction of the sentence. This account of you we have from all quarters received. A Frenchman or a Russian could not have written that. It's the German who is so discourteous to his verbs.
Oh, there's your client now. I'd better go home.
No, unless you have to.
Well, I could stay. I thought perhaps...
Oh, then, my dear chap, stay by all means. I'm lost without my Boswell, and this promises to be interesting. I told Mrs. Hudson to let the masked visitor come upstairs unannounced. Come in. Good evening, sir.
You received my note?
Yes, indeed. Come in, won't you? Sit down. This is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson. You may say anything before him that you can say to me.
Whom have I the honor to address?
You may address me as Count von Kram.
How do you do, sir?
You must excuse this mask that I wear. The august person who employs me wishes his agent to be unknown to you. And I may confess at once that the title by which I have just called myself is not exactly my own.
I was well aware of that fact, sir.
You see, Mr. Holmes, the matter I'm about to discuss implicates the great house of Ormstein, hereditary kings of Bohemia.
That had not escaped me either, sir. In fact, if you will state your case, I shall be better able to advise you. Your Majesty.
How did you... Yes. Yes, I am the king. Why should I attempt to conceal it?
Why, indeed.
I shall remove the mask. There. Mr. Holmes, I have traveled incognito from Prague for the express purpose of consulting you.
Then pray consult.
Briefly, the facts are these. Some 5 years ago, during a visit to Warsaw, I meet the acquaintance of the well-known adventuress, Irene Adler.
Irene Adler? We know of her, Your Majesty.
Now look her up in the index for me, will you, Watson? It's right beside you on the desk there.
I imagine that the name would not be unfamiliar to you.
Here we are. Abrahams, Acton Green, Hatchet Murders. Adler.
Splendid. Hand me the file, old chap. Thank you. Irene Adler. Born in New Jersey in the United States of America in 1858. Contralto. Prima donna Imperial Opera of Warsaw. Oh. Retired from the operatic stage. Living in London. Quite so. And here's a recent notation. Your Majesty, as I understand, became entangled with this young person. Wrote her some compromising letters and is now desirous of getting those letters back.
Precisely so, but how...
Was there a secret marriage?
None.
No legal papers or certificates?
No.
Then I fail to follow, Your Majesty. If this young lady should produce her letters for blackmailing purposes, how is she to prove their authenticity?
There's the handwriting.
That could be a forgery, Your Majesty.
But it was private notepaper.
Stolen.
My own seal.
Imitated.
My photograph.
Bought.
What? We were both in the photograph.
Oh, dear me. Yes, that's very bad. Your Majesty has indeed committed an indiscretion.
Did you inscribe this photograph, Your Majesty?
Yes, Dr. Watson, I am afraid I did.
Good gracious me.
Mr. Holmes, it must be recovered.
Perhaps if you were to pay enough, the photograph might be bought.
She refuses to sell.
Stolen, then?
5 attempts have been made. Twice, burglars in my pay ransacked our house. Once, we diverted her luggage when she traveled. Twice, she has been waylaid. There has been no result.
Oh, yes, quite a pretty little problem.
It is a deadly serious one to me.
Your Majesty, what does Miss Adler intend to do with the photograph?
To ruin me.
Now, how, sir?
Well, I am about to be married to the second daughter of the King of Scandinavia. She is the soul of delicacy. A shadow of a doubt as to my conduct would bring the matter to an end.
And Irene Adler threatens to send the photograph to your fiancée, I suppose.
Yes, and she will do it. Rather than let me marry another woman, there are no lengths to which she would not go. None.
Are you sure that she hasn't already sent it, Your Majesty?
I am sure.
And why?
She said she would send it on the day my betrothal is publicly announced. That day will be next Monday.
Splendid. Then we still have 3 days. Your Majesty will, of course, stay in London for the present?
Yes, certainly. You will find me at the Langham Hotel, registered as Count von Kram.
Just 2 questions before you leave.
What are they?
Is the photograph large or small?
Quite large. And it was in a heavy frame.
I see. And what is Irene Adler's London address, please?
Briony Lodge, Serpentine Avenue, St. John's Wood.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Good night, and I trust that we shall soon have some good news for you.
I am placing all my hopes in you, Mr. Holmes. Good night. Good night, Dr. Watson.
Good night, Your Majesty. Fascinating problem, Holmes. I wish I could help you with it.
You can, my dear chap. I shall be glad of your company.
That's our first move, Holmes.
A good night's rest. We'll meet here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
And then?
Then, my dear fellow, we will see what we can find out about Miss Irene Adler, late of the Warsaw Imperial Opera Company, and at present residing at Briony Lodge, Serpentine Avenue, St. John's Wood.
Well, Holmes, the cursory examination of Brownlee Lodge didn't prove very illuminating.
No, a bijou residence that represents the essence of dignified suburbia, but tells us very little about the owner. I think a visit to the local public house might prove more instructive. Come on, old chap. I see the door of the Coach and Horses inviting us from across the road.
Well, our disguises shouldn't cause any no?
I suggested them. In the character of a couple of stablehams, I felt that we might inspire confidence. This is a horsey neighborhood. There's a wonderful sympathy and freemasonry among that fraternity. There we are. Better let me do most of the talking.
Yes, I will. I'm sure that your accent will be more convincing than
Let's
mine.
go in, shall we?
What'll it be, mateys?
All for Baltimore, please. How about you, Charlie?
I'll have the same.
Two off of Old and Mild. Here we are, mateys. That'll be a tenner.
Have a drink with us, Governor?
Well, don't mind if I do. I'll have a Guinness. You blokes new around here?
Oh, yes. We just come over from Clapham.
Clapham, eh? Well, here's looking at you. You hunting for jobs?
Yes, that's right. Well, we was told that Miss Adler across at Brownlee Lodge needed a new coachman and groom.
Well, it's the first I've heard of it, but it might be true. Have you been over there to ask?
No, not yet. We thought we'd find out something about the old girl first.
She ain't no old girl, matey. She's the prettiest young thing you ever saw under a bonnet, and that's a fact.
You know her, Governor?
Yeah, of course I know her. Used to drive her carriage, I did, before I come to work here.
Oh, what's she like?
Well, nice little lady as you'll find, chum.
Work yard?
No. She lives quiet like. Goes out singing at concerts once in a while. Rest of the time, it's money for jam. She goes out for a drive in the park every day at 5 and comes back to dinner at 6:30. Rest of the time's your own.
Oh, she ain't married, you say?
No. But she's got a bloke what comes to see her all the time. He's a barrister. Nice gentleman. Mr. Geoffrey Norton is his name. Good-looking fella. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get sliced.
Sounds like a nice cushy job to me. Come on, Charlie. Let's get over to the house and see what's what. Much obliged to you, chum.
Well, good luck, matey.
Good night.
And thanks for the Guinness.
What's our next move, Holmes?
Let's stroll back to Brownlee Lodge, shall we? I'm undecided whether to continue my investigations there or to try and find out something about Mr. Geoffrey Norton, the barrister. If he's just her lawyer or nothing else, it's more than likely that she's entrusted the photograph to his safekeeping.
Hello. There's a cab waiting outside Miss Adler's house.
Hurry, Watson. Maybe Mr. Norton's.
Here we are at the gate.
Yes. And here comes a man hurrying down the pathway. Quick. Behind this post. Listen.
Where to now, Mr. Norton? Try like the devil. First to Gross and Hankey's in Regent Street, and then to the Church of St. Monica in the Edgware Road. Half a sovereign if you do it in 20 minutes. Right, you are, Mr. Norton. Up in.
Try and signal the cab, Watson. We must follow him.
Here comes one. No, it isn't. It's a private carriage.
Miss Adler's, no doubt. Well, here she comes down the pathway. Back again behind the post, Watson.
Where to, Miss Adler?
The Church of St. Monica, John, and half a sovereign if you reach it in 20 minutes.
Game's afoot. Quick. We must get a cab and follow them.
Here comes a hansom. Cabby! Hi, cabby!
Have you blokes got enough money to take a cab?
Here's half a sovereign for you, my man.
Right, you are. Where to, Governor?
The Church of St. Monica on the Edgware Road, and another half sovereign for you if you get us there in 20 minutes.
We'll hear the rest of Dr. Watson's story in just a second, but let me tell you something. If you're going to have chicken for dinner tomorrow night, or any night, don't forget to serve that chicken with Petri California Sauterne. Believe me, Petri Sauterne is just about the last word in white wines. It's beautifully golden in color, it's delicate and intriguing in flavor, and it's just... Well, you taste it and see for yourself. If you want a delicious white wine, you certainly want Petri Sauterne. But, Doctor, again, you broke off your story at the most exciting point. Did you and Sherlock Holmes reach that church inside the 20 minutes?
Yes, Mr. Bartell, we did, but the other carriages were there before us. Holmes went into the church after telling me to guard the outside. I must have waited for 10 minutes or more before Mr. Geoffrey Norton and Miss Adler came out. Spoke a few words to each other, and then left in their separate conveyances. A moment later, Holmes, still dressed as a stable hand, came striding out of the church and down the steps towards me. He was obviously very excited.
Watson, have they left?
Yes, in separate cabs. I overheard him say that he was going back to his office, and she said, I shall drive out in the park at 5 o'clock as usual.
Splendid. Then come on. We can return to Baker Street.
What happened inside the church, Holmes?
They were married.
Married?
Of course. The ceremony would have been illegal if performed afternoon. That accounted for their wild dash to the church. Jump into the cab, old fellow.
Where to now, Governor?
221B Baker Street.
Oh, so they got married, eh?
Yes, and it may amuse you to know that I acted as witness at the ceremony.
You did, but how did that happen?
Their own witness had failed to appear, and I was dragged into the breach. The bride gave me this sovereign as a memento. I think I'll wear it on my watch chain in memory of the occasion.
What an amazing situation. Things begin to look better for the king, don't they? Now that she's Mrs. Norton, the chances are that she won't want to expose His Majesty after all.
I hope so, Watson, I hope so. But we can't afford to take any chances. I think the time is ripe for us to come to closer grips with the lady.
Well, Holmes, now that we've eaten, perhaps you'll tell me your plan.
With pleasure, my dear fellow. And while I'm so doing, I'll proceed with applying the makeup of my new disguise.
Another disguise? What's it to be this time?
I think the character and appearance of an amiable, simple-minded, nonconformist clergyman would be the most suited to my plan for entering Miss Adler's house.
You're going to try and enter, then?
I must, my dear fellow. I'm sure the photograph is there. Miss Adler, or rather, Mrs. Norton, who will return from her drive in the park at 6:30. We must be at Briony Lodge to meet her.
And what then?
You must leave that to me. I've already made my arrangements. There is only one point on which I must insist. You must not interfere, come what may, you understand?
I'm to remain neutral.
Yes. There will be some small unpleasantness. Don't join in. It will end in my being conveyed into the house. As soon as I'm able to, I shall open one of the windows. You're to watch from the outside. When I raise my hand, you will throw an object that I shall give you through the window and at the same time cry, fire. You follow me?
Entirely, but what am I to throw?
Oh, it's nothing very formidable. Here it is.
Looks like a great big cigar.
Just
what
an
is it?
Ordinary plumber's smoke rocket. Fitted with a cap at either end to make it self-lighting. Your task is confined to throwing it through the window. When you raise the cry of fire, it will be taken up by quite a number of people. You may then walk to the end of the street, and I'll rejoin you in 10 minutes. I hope I've made myself clear.
Perfectly.
Good. And now, old fellow, as soon as I've donned my clerical attire, let's be on our way. There's no time to be lost.
Nearly 6:30, Holmes. We've been pacing up and down in front of her house for half an hour now. I hope she does come back.
I'm sure she will.
There seem to be a lot of loafers hanging round her gate.
All part of my conspiracy, old chap. You'll see them play their parts in a few minutes.
You still think the photograph is inside the house?
Yes, it's most unlikely that she carries it about with her. Remember, the king told us it was a large frame picture. And also remember that she'd planned to use it within a few days. It must be where she can lay her hands on it. It must be inside her house.
But her house has been burgled twice.
They didn't know how to look.
How will you look?
I won't. I'll get her to show me.
Well, she'll refuse.
She won't be able to... Shh. There comes the carriage now. Remember, Watson, carry out my orders to the letter.
You can trust me.
Good luck. Blimey, here comes the Duchess of Diddley. Let's put out a carpet. She might get her tootsies wet.
Oh, put a sock in it, Elfie.
Leave him alone. She's no better than she ought to be.
Please, let me through. I'll live here.
Well, ain't that nice? We'll all come in and have a cup of cat.
Move out of the way, please, and let the lady through.
Mind your own business. Just because your collar's turned the wrong way round, you can't spoil our fun.
That's right, Eddie. Keep your nose out of it, Parson.
Yeah.
Please don't fight about it.
No, I'll tell you what. Stop molesting the lady, please.
Do you? Then how would you like a biff on the nose?
Oh, he hit the poor man, and then he ran away, the coward. Is the clergyman badly hurt?
He hit his head, Mum, as he fell. If you asks me, he's that bad. He's bleeding something terrible. Can we bring him in, Mum? He can't lie here in the street.
Oh, why, of course. Bring him in.
Right you are, Mum. Here, Bert.
Right,
Give us a hand.
Coo, poor fella. Did you see what happened to him, mister?
Yes, I saw, my good woman. A very convincing demonstration.
What you mean?
Weren't you paid by a certain gentleman for this performance?
Oh, you knows about it, too. You must be a friend of Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, I am.
Oh, nice gentleman. He give us 5 bob apiece for tonight's work. We ain't through yet, though. We got to start yelling fire when somebody tells us.
I'm that somebody, my dear lady. There's Mr. Holmes now. He's inside the house.
Yes, he's opening a window.
Now he's raising his hand. That's my signal. Now to throw the rocket. There we are. Fire! Holmes, there you are. You have the photograph?
No, but I know what it is. She showed me as I told her she would.
Oh, I'm still in the dark.
There's no mystery, old chap. When my accomplices started around the street, I had a little moist red paint in my hand. My good friend Alfred pretended to strike me. I clapped my hand to my head and fell down. It's an old trick.
Yes, I understand that, but how did my throwing the rocket help
you?
It's
all important, my dear fellow. When a woman thinks her house is on fire, her instinct is at once to rush for the thing that she values most. A married one grabs her baby. An unmarried one reaches for a jewel box. In this case, of course, it was the photograph.
Where was it?
In a recess in the living room, just above the right-hand bell pull. I caught a glimpse of it as she drew it out. When I made it known that the fire was a false alarm, she replaced the photograph. As soon as I was able to, I advised her that I was feeling well enough to leave.
You didn't take the photograph, then?
No, I felt that over-precipitance at this stage might ruin everything.
What do we do now?
Drive to the Langham Hotel and inform His Majesty of what has happened. Then return with him here. After that, my dear chap, the case will be ended.
This is Brownie Lodge, Your Majesty.
I'm all impatience. You are certain the photograph will still be there, Mr. Holmes?
I have every reason to believe so, Your Majesty.
I must confess this is going to be something of an ordeal.
Then I suggest that you let me do the talking, Your Majesty. I think I know how to handle the lady.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I believe.
Yes, I am Mr. Holmes, but how did you know?
My mistress told me you would be likely to call. She has left for the continent with her husband.
You mean she's left England?
Never to return.
Then the papers and the photograph. All is lost.
We'll soon see. Follow me.
He said you'd be looking for something. I hope you find it.
This was the bell rope. Sliding panel behind it. Here it is.
Is the photograph there, Mr. Holmes?
There is a photograph, Your Majesty, but it's a photograph of the lady alone. Here's a letter, and it's addressed to me.
What does it say, Holmes?
My dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, you really did it very well. Until after the fire alarm, I had no suspicion. But then when I realized how I had betrayed myself, I began to think. I'd been warned that if the king employed an agent, he would certainly employ you. May I congratulate you on your disguise as a dear old clergyman?
Great Scott, he was much more clever than you thought, Holmes.
Yeah, go on. What else does it say?
And my husband and I both thought that the best recourse was flight. So you will find the nest empty. As to the photograph of the king and myself, His Majesty may rest in peace. Oh, thank goodness for that. I love and am loved by a better man than he. I leave another photograph, however, that he might care to possess. And I remain, dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, very truly yours, Irene Norton, née Adler. What a woman, Watson. What a woman. What a magnificent woman. She fooled me completely. But, I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I've been unable to bring your business to a more successful conclusion.
On the contrary, my dear sir, nothing could be more successful. I know that Irene's word is inviolate. The incriminating photograph is now as safe as if it were in the fire.
Well, I'm glad to hear Your Majesty say so.
I am immensely indebted to you. Pray tell me in what way I can reward you. This beryl ring that I wear, I should be proud.
Your Majesty has something that I should value even more highly.
You have but to name it.
This photograph, sir.
Irene's photograph? But certainly. However, you must let me give you something more substantial.
No, Your Majesty. This is something I shall treasure all my life. This and a golden sovereign I received from the lady's hand. They will remind me that I was once tricked by a woman. A woman that I shall never forget.
Gee, Doctor, what a woman, that Mrs. Adler. Or should I say Mrs. Norton. That's the kind of woman I could really go for.
Yes, I believe you could. Just between ourselves, you know, I sort of could go for her myself.
She was intelligent.
She was rich.
And beautiful. That's the kind of woman you want sitting next to you in front of a cozy fire on a nippy fall night. Just the three of you.
The three of you?
Mm-hmm. You, she, and a glass of Petri port.
Mr. Bartell.
Well, why not? That Petri California port is some wine. Boy, that Petri family really knows how to make good wine, all right. And no wonder. Look at all the experience they've had. Ever since they started the Petri business way back in the 1800s, the Petri family has handed down from father to son, the art of selecting perfect, sun-ripened California grapes and making them into clear, fragrant, delicious wine. Those letters, P-E-T-R-I, on the label of every bottle of Petri wine are the personal assurance of the Petri family that every drop of wine in that bottle is good wine. It's got to be, because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, that was a great story you told us tonight.
I thought you'd like it, Mr. Bartell. That's why I plan to tell you a sequel to it next week.
A sequel? Say, that sounds exciting, Doctor.
Well, I think you'll find it proves to be, Mr. Bartell. It's a story that takes place 20 years after tonight's adventure. And once again, the principal part is played by a woman. Only in this case, it isn't Irene Adler. It's her daughter. Oh, and now, Mr. Bartell, before I go, I want to remind our listeners that they owe a real debt of gratitude to the selective service boards in their communities. At this moment, those selective service boards are working harder than ever, making sure that every returning veteran knows his rights and privileges. And the boards are helping him take full advantage of those rights and privileges. And they're helping our veterans get jobs. Our selective service boards deserve our sincere thanks, and they deserve our cooperation. They have done, and they are doing, a splendid job.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and is an adaptation of the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, A Scandal in Bohemia. Music is by Dean Fosler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is Harry Bartell saying good night for the Petri family. For a solid hour of exciting mystery dramas, listen every Monday on most of these same stations at 8 o'clock to Bulldog Drummond, followed immediately by Sherlock Holmes.
This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. A sequel to The Scandal of Bohemia coming up next week. That's exciting. And I have to think, despite the insane 80-plus straight weeks that they pulled in the mid-40s, this had to be a fun show to write for. Because most of the mystery writers owe a great deal of their interest in the genre, even if Sherlock Holmes isn't their favorite, to Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle for establishing the market. And here they're getting to write new chapters. It's like big fans of Sherlock Holmes are getting to write and broadcast their dream fan fiction and get paid for it. And it all be legal. I did think that the actress who played the woman, that voice didn't seem to go. Was my only complaint about this particular episode. But other than that, it was good showing. I'm definitely anticipating next week when we get to hear the sequel. Alright, one more comment and then we will sign off. Thanks for a great, this comes from Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Keep up the good work. I enjoy having the opportunity to update the shows and listen to them daily. The information on the detective shows are very interesting, and I'm learning a lot about how the old shows were made. It takes me back to an earlier time and makes me feel as if I'm listening to them live back then. With many shows available to the public, I'm anticipating much enjoyment for a long time to come. Thanks, Adam. Well, and thank you for the comment, and I am hoping that more shows become available to play as time goes on. Well, this Sunday, it's time for My Favorite Brunette with Bob Hope. I always, before I do the show, because I know I always want to give kind of a parental advisory on the movies. I couldn't really think of anything that most parents would be all that concerned about. It's fairly, no swearing, some violence, just a very enjoyable movie. Coming this Sunday, My Favorite Brunette. Alright, well, before we do get into the show, I do want to let you know a little bit about our sponsors. The GoToMeeting conferencing service that's offered by our sponsor is designed for bottom-line folks who want to make the most of their time, don't want to compromise the security of their business, and want an affordable service. Is it safe? Yes, it has the high standard of security right down to the user interface. Is it affordable? You get unlimited meetings for $49 a month, and that includes free voice over phone and phone conferencing. Will it save time? Judge for yourself. Listeners to this program can get a 45-day free trial of GoToMeeting. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast. The Dead First Helpers.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
This is Bill Hudson, Johnny. Grand Industrial Assurance. Remember?
How could I forget? Whose assembly line busted down this time?
It's steel, Johnny. Cornell Steel, Pittsburgh. Lots of so-called accidental deaths from the open hearth furnaces. Frankly, it smacks of murder to me.
Could be hot work. I'll bring my sweatshirt. When's the next plane for Smokeville?
Edmund O'Brien in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Great Industrial Assurance Corporation of America, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during investigation of the dead first helpers. Expense account, item 1, $83.24 plane fare to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a land of chimneys and open hearth furnaces where I met Supervisor Joel Barrett.
5 men in a single month, Mr. Dollar. All of them first helpers.
What's a first helper?
Well, it goes like this. The melter foreman is in charge of a number of furnaces. The first helper is in charge of an individual furnace. Under him are the second helpers and the cinder snaps.
I see.
Well, how did the deaths occur?
In a number of ways. One man tumbled down a flight of stairs. Two were killed by a crane magnet. Another one fell from the pouring platform. And just last week, one of our best men was killed in an explosion of a hot-cap mold.
You better explain that one.
Certain types of steel have to be capped after they've been poured from the ladle to the ingot, you see. Sometimes the pressure is so great inside of them that when the pourers shoot water on the cap to seal it, the cap flies off and sprays a man with molten steel. I've seen it happen only once, Mr. Dollar. That's enough for me.
Any connection between these deaths?
How do you mean?
I mean any common denominator, anything that could provide a motive for murder.
None that I know of, except for the fact that all the men had been with us for a long time, 15 or 20 years.
Just the boys that know their way around, eh?
That's what's so strange, Mr. Dollar. None of them have ever been found to ignore safety regulations. How do you plan on proceeding?
Well, it's been my experience that plant investigation from the outside is pretty often a waste of time. The men are on their guard.
You want to go right to work in the shop?
What did you say they call the lowest man on the open hearth furnace?
Cinder snap.
Well, you break out the overalls, Mr. Barrett. We'll see how good I am at snapping cinders. Expense account item 2, 25 cents for work cap. Every other item of equipment provided by the company. Expense account item 3, $1 for blister salve and adhesive tape for hands after first 8 hours of work. Expense account item 4, 75 cents for liniment for back after second 8 hours of work. Expense account item 5, $10 first union fees, United Steelworkers CIO. Footnote, the fourth day on the job is the hardest.
Dollar!
Yeah!
Silicon! What? Silicon! The wheelbarrow! Come on!
Right!
Move!
Joel! Yeah?
Get on the rod! They're tapping 12!
Lord?
Get on the rod!
Right!
Dollar!
Yeah!
Where's the silicon?
Oh, I gotta get on the rod!
Well, get to the rod! The silicon! And we're banging it!
You're what?
Hurry up! Dollar! Get on the rod! Get on the rod!
The routine was a killer, but more and more I felt myself becoming a part of the making of steel. It's really something to watch the straight white-hot steam pound into the ingot molds from the ladles. And I began to know these men whom you never hear about. The men with the big backs and the soaking red bandanas around their waists. Like Andre with the funny last name, who got a kick out of helping me along.
It's all right, Dora. You get the swing of it. It's not half so hard like you think. After a while, you get strong, get tough like nails.
Oh, my aching back.
Bet you never eat so good, huh? Bet you never sleep so good.
Oh, I dream about lime-silicon ratios.
You on seat turn tomorrow?
Yeah, if you mean the midnight shift, yeah.
Good, you be with me. I'll show you lots of things.
Well, I don't mind the work, but frankly, I'm scared.
You work good. They not fire you.
It's not that, Andre. I mean cranes and scrap cars and ladles of steel 3,000 degrees hot.
You learn how to go around, you have no trouble. You remember the rule, you have no trouble. You'll be fine.
Maybe, but some of the boys were saying that 5 men died in the last month. And boys that should know how to get around. Right, Andre?
Accidents always happen. Fools, the old ones, they're the careless ones. They think they know so well the rule, and they slip and poof.
Yeah, you said it. Poof. But sometimes it isn't so easy to make friends in a steel mill. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you know that you've lived too soft a life to ever get information from a steel man like Joe Poland. I found him in the company cafeteria.
Where do you come?
Chicago.
You no look Chicago.
What do I look?
You look from office building. Where you work before?
Office building.
Your hand like baby, soft like milk. How'd they take you?
Guess I've got an honest face.
What?
Give it. Eat your soup. It's getting cold. Kirk Brody.
What you say?
Nothing. Just Kirk Brody.
Kirk Brody. How you know Kirk Brody? He dead when you come.
I know. Killed by a hot cap mold.
Kirk Brody friend. I like him. Work good.
Who was working with him, Joe?
Masaloni.
Glad it wasn't me. I'd hate to have that on my conscience.
You nosy. You maybe work for Barrett. Barrett. I don't like.
Finish your soup, Joe. It's getting cold.
Yeah.
Then there was Fred, another first helper, who helped me understand the general feeling about Mr. Barrett.
You'll learn what it's like, Dollar. You married?
Not yet.
Well, if you were married and maybe had a couple of kids, you'd find out. You'd lie awake at night and you'd wonder, will it be me? Will I get that blue slip tomorrow? What if something happened to me? Would she get anything from the insurance? Things like that.
How long you been here?
5 years. And tomorrow they can say, that's all, friend. And where are you?
You sound like you know your way around, Fred. What's your idea on these accidents?
Accidents? There's no such thing as an accident, Dollar. People who want to live cross the street with the light. The same way in Steele. Like Kirk Brody, killed last week.
I decided to pay Kirk Brody's widow a call, but there was so little to go on, I had nothing to lose. She lived in a cold water flat. There was still a black wreath on the door.
Yes?
Mrs. Brody?
That's right.
I wonder if I could see you for a moment. I'm with Cornell Steele.
Come in. Won't you sit down?
Thanks. My name is Dollar. I'm investigating the accidents that occurred in the open hearths, Mrs. Brody. I'm sorry to trouble you about it, but there are some things I have to know.
Kirk was the last one.
It happened 3 weeks ago, is that right?
Yeah. 3 weeks ago, Tuesday.
On the accident report, it said he was killed when a hot cap blew off a mold.
I knew it would happen, Mr. Dollar. I knew it would happen. It was as if I could have stopped it. Oh, Kirk was always careful. Always. Only that day when he left the house, I had a feeling something was going to happen. I said, Kirk, please be careful. He smiled. It was the last I saw.
I won't trouble you any further, Mrs. Brody.
Oh, Nora. I want to tell you what's happening, Mr. Dollar. I'll tell you what it is. It was this way with Kirk. It's this way with the others. It's their jobs. They're scared for their jobs. If you want to investigate, you want to investigate Barrett. He's the one to investigate.
Hope nobody saw you come in here.
Nobody did, Barrett.
What'd you find out?
Well, nothing you could call factual, but there's some kind of tension in the shop. Something's going on.
Well, production is holding its own.
No, they work all right. But it's like they're frightened of something. I want to look at your employment records.
Well, sure thing. Right in that file drawer.
Thanks.
You know, it certainly is odd, Dollar. Every one of the men killed was alone at the time. No witnesses at all.
Oh, really? That's something you neglected to tell me on my first visit here, Mr. Barrett.
Slipped my mind.
Yeah, it seems several other things slipped your mind.
What do you mean?
Well, like a little communication I found on the bulletin board in the locker room.
What communication?
To the effect that due to various conditions beyond our control, layoffs will be necessary in some cases, and men will be laid off consistent with their seniority.
Now, what possible connection could that have with the 5 deaths?
You had the answer to that question, but I had to find it out on my own. I don't call that active cooperation, Mr. Barrett.
What's that,
The 5 men were killed in order of seniority. The killer, whoever he is, obviously is scared to death of losing his job. According to your files, the next man slated of accidental death is another first helper, Mike Baroldi. Now, you knew all that. Why didn't you speak up?
Well, I don't know. It never hit me as particularly important.
You know Cornell Steele isn't laying off anybody right now. Maybe you're trying to scare the men into more work. And I doubt if that's company policy, Mr. Barrett.
You have your job to do, Dollar. That's to find this killer. I have my job to do. That's to boost production. Is that all right with you?
Perfectly all right. And I'll take my job any day. Mike! Yeah? Come here. What? The delay clerk shanty.
Okay. I just block her with manganese for the tap, Dollar. I can't waste no time.
Look, this won't take long. Mike, you're on somebody's death list. You know that?
What are you talking about?
I'm with the Plan Insurance Company investigating the 5 deaths that occurred here in the last month. According to my figures, you're next.
Cut it out.
It's not just a matter of accident, Mike. It's murder. You're the highest man in the shop in seniority outside of the Melter foreman. Somebody is knocking off the top of the list one by one. So just watch your step.
I believe it when I see it.
When you see it, Mike, it's going to be too late. That night, toward the end of the shift, must have been about 6 in the morning, Mike was cleaning cinders from the furnace floor on the tap hole side. I was making it my business to keep an eye on him. He was sweeping the cinders off the platform down into the empty ladle pit 30 feet below. As a first helper, it wasn't his job, but Mike was like that. Suddenly, from the other side of the furnace came the huge figure of a man in an asbestos cloak and hood over his head and body. Mike turned, and a look of terror came into his face. I started for him, but too late. Whoever it was picked Mike up, held him aloft for a split second, and hurled him to his death.
In just a moment, we'll return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. But first, to politely paraphrase history, George burns while Gracie fiddles. And the result is, of course, the laugh riot heard every Wednesday evening over most of these same CBS stations. George and Gracie are two of America's best purveyors of nonsense, and two neighbors everyone enjoys visiting. You can never tell what Gracie has up her sleeve, but you can always bet it'll get George into trouble. Be sure not to miss the Burns and Allen Show this Wednesday and every Wednesday at that spot on your dial marked CBS. And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
They gathered around the body of Mike Baroldi, and I gave chase to the killer. It was like running after a brown ghost. He ducked up the aisle between furnaces and hopped gingerly over the coupling of a train of coal scrap. I wasn't so lucky. I climbed up, but my foot got caught in the coupling guide, and I fell on my face. The next thing I remember, I was in the plant inspector's office. He was dismayed. He took one gander at my noggin and launched into Lecture 1A of the Safety Inspector's Manual.
And look at this one. Another example. Look at his head. You're lucky to be alive. What rule did you break?
Section 3, Code 2.
Don't you be funny with me. You know, I could have you fired, you know.
I'll bet you could. What have you found out about Mike Baroldi?
I filled in a full report. The poor man fell over the railing while cleaning the platform.
Not quite.
What?
He was pushed.
Pushed? Who pushed him?
I don't know. The killer had an asbestos cloak and hood over him.
A killer? This is worse than I thought.
You got a skeleton key to the lockers? I want to see Mike's belongings.
Look, just who do you think you are?
I'm with the Grand Insurance Company, mister. You give me the key, and I think we can have this thing straightened out in no time. He was so stunned, he sent me to the open heart production office where I got a key. The locker room was empty. I went to Mike Baroldi's locker first. I found his wallet with a pass to the plant in it and $3 in cash. There was a picture of a woman holding a baby. I put the wallet back, looked through the inside pocket of his coat, empty. I closed the locker and started a methodical search of each locker in the place. About 2/3 down the first row, I came to a locker labeled Andre Lemaire. I opened it and found what I was looking for, an asbestos cloak and hood. There had been a tear on the sleeve of the cloak worn by the man who had killed Mike Baroldi. I took the cloak with me, locked up, and walked down the aisle to the door. Somebody was coming in just as I was coming out. It was Joe, Big Joe Poland.
What you do here, nosy?
Aren't you supposed to be at work?
I feel sick.
Where's Andre?
Andre work.
Number 10?
Like always, number 10. You nosy fella.
I get nosier. Did you ever see this asbestos cloak before?
Sure. It used to blow out topple when they put out new heat.
You seen it lately? Like on somebody?
Sure. Andre, he have one coat.
When?
Before.
Before what?
I don't know. Before.
All right, thanks, Joe. See you later.
Yeah. You tell Andre Joe's sick. Joe go home.
I'll tell him, Joe.
Hey, wait. Inspector say Mike Baroldi pushed from rail.
That's right.
How he know?
I told him.
How you know?
I saw it.
You see Andre push Mike, huh?
What makes you think it was Andre?
Andre bad fella. He don't like this Mike. Always make trouble for this Mike.
And you don't like Andre?
Sure I don't like Andre. Why you think I tell you?
Did you see Andre?
I see him go to furnace where Mike is. Stomach too big.
You go on home, Joe. You don't look so good. As far as I was concerned, there were two main possibilities, two big boys. One was Joe Poland. The other was Andre Lemaire. I stuck the asbestos cloak that I found in Andre's locker in the production office where I could get to it later. The sun had come up, and Andre was standing there, enjoying the fresh air before going down to the locker room.
Hello, Dollar. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it is.
It's a beautiful day. That man should have to bury himself in this dirt and filth when all the world is so beautiful. That is the shame, no?
Yeah, that's right, Andre. You going home now?
Yeah, I go home now, yes. Oh, I have wonderful suggestion. Wonderful suggestion. You come home with me, huh? We have good French meal. You like good French food?
Yeah, sounds great. Your wife won't mind?
Sure she mind, but who cares for the wife? Come.
What's your name, monsieur?
Johnny Dollar.
Funny name.
You have no sense. Woman, you do not tell a man he has funny name.
I'm sorry, monsieur.
Oh, think nothing of it.
You work at mill?
That's right.
He'll make a wonderful worker. A very good man because he think, he use his head. Oh, I forget, Marie. The most terrible thing has happened.
What?
You know Mac Baroldi. Mac, tall, long, thin, little hair. Well, Mike is pushed from rail and killed.
Oh, no.
Killed. Oh, terrible, terrible. You see it, no, Dollar?
Yeah, I saw it.
Somebody do it. Somebody. They catch him, boy.
Andre, I think it's about time I let you in on a little secret. I'm with an insurance company. I'm investigating these murders.
Oh?
I found an asbestos cloak in your locker today.
I have no asbestos cloak.
I saw him. I killed Andre. The killer wore this cloak. The cloak was in your locker. Maybe you'd better take it from there.
You say I killed Mike? You tell me this? I take you to my house? You say terrible things to me like this? You lie to me. You say you're a friend of mine. You leave. You leave. Leave!
Well, there goes some nice French cooking. Expense account, item 6, 25 cents for coffee and donuts at a corner cafe. I kicked myself a couple of times for breaking out the evidence before I should have. Then I went back to the open hearth office. Barrett had just arrived. He greeted me with a frown that reminded me of the last conversation we'd had.
Well, Dollar, have you found anything else?
You heard what happened early this morning?
About Mike, yes. I thought you had it all figured out.
Well, I still haven't. I chased the killer across the shop, but he got away.
I see.
No, you don't see. He had an asbestos cloak and hood over him.
Pretty clever fella.
Yeah, and pretty big. I've got it narrowed down, but that doesn't help much.
I suppose you've come to look through the files again, just so you can tell who's going to be killed next?
Maybe it'll be different this time, Mr. Barrett. I think I'll just take that seniority list with me, if I may. I'm going to go home and get some sleep.
How do you like the night shift?
It's anything but dull, Mr. Barrett. I'll see you later. Expense account, item 7, $1 even cab fare to boarding house, to which a surprised taxi driver chauffeured his first overall customer in what must have been years. Did I study the list in the cab? I did not. I grabbed a little sleep. The driver shook me awake. I paid him, went upstairs, and flopped in the cot. Then I opened the paper. The next name on the list was none other than Andre Lemaire. Expense account, item 8, 75 cents taxi fare. I got to Andre's in 10 minutes. I was 20 minutes too late. The police were out front.
Dead. He's dead. I killed him.
Who killed him, Mrs. Lemaire?
Killed him. Killed him.
Who, Mrs. Lemaire?
The man. The big man. He killed him.
Sergeant, take care of him. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lemaire. Expense account item 8, cab fare to plant. I tried to tell myself that there was nothing I could have done, that everything had pointed to Andre. But I'd seen his name on the seniority list, right below Mike Baroldi's. I'd drawn too many conclusions. It was clear now. The asbestos cloak in Andre's locker had been a frame. Maybe insurance investigators shouldn't make mistakes, but they do. And sometimes fatal ones. I could lay the blame for Andre's death on nobody but myself. Myself and a big first helper named Joe Poland. Where's Poland, Barrett?
I don't know. He got sick. We sent him home.
What's his address?
I have it right here in my book.
Well, bring it with you. You and I are paying a visit to Joe Poland.
I hope you have a gun, Dollar.
Just in case.
Knock.
You better stand back.
Yeah?
Mrs. Poland?
Yeah?
Is your husband home?
No.
We're from the mills. This is Mr. Barrett.
Oh?
Where can we find your husband, Mrs. Poland?
He's not home.
Mind if we come in and see?
He's not home. Go away. He's not
I'm
home.
sorry, Mrs. Poland. We'll have to make sure.
You stop.
You try that door, Barrett.
I think you'd better try it.
You
Dollar.
go.
All right.
You go. I call police.
He's not here, Barrett.
He's not home. I told you he's not home.
Mrs. Poland, you may not know it, but your husband is wanted for murder.
Murder?
Yeah. Now, come on. Tell us where he is.
You from Mills? I tell you nothing.
Look, Mrs. Poland, be reasonable.
Reasonable. You be reasonable. 5 gates. Be reasonable. This place be reasonable. Mills be reasonable. Barrett. You go. I call police.
Come on, Barrett. You must have a peculiar theory of management, Barrett. I've been in dozens of plants, and I've never seen anybody loved like you are. What do you do to them?
My theory of management is very simple. Men work better when the pressure's on. There it is, cruel but true. I have the top production result in the plant. You can't beat that.
How did you ever get off a bookkeeper's stool and into a mill? How did you ever get to be a supervisor? I'd like to meet the man that hired you.
I give you 10 days as a supervisor in the steel mills, Dollar. You'd change your opinions fast. Men are no different now than they ever were. Give them an inch, they take a mile. Give them 5 minutes off, they take an hour. Let them out of your sight for a minute, and they're playing cards in a corner.
You know, men are more than figures on a production chart. Could that be why you lost a lot of good first helpers, Barrett?
One maniac runs loose, and you condemn the whole method. Sorry, Dollar. You've got a lot to learn about the practical management. You'd better just stick to investigation. And from the way you've messed this case up, I'd say you were the one who had a lot to learn in his field.
We rode back to the plant without a word. It wasn't just anger. There was so much difference between us, there was just nothing to say. Barrett got off and said he'd call the police if I had proof that Joe Poland was the killer. I said I didn't have any proof and for him to call the police anyhow. I took the stairs to the furnace floor. I knew Poland would be there. I don't know how I knew, I just knew. I wandered from furnace shanty to furnace shanty. I found him at number 12. He was cleaning out the clay of the tap hole before the pour. Joe? Yeah? Take off the hood. What? Come on, Joe. It's all over.
Dollar! No good, Dollar. Nobody takes job away from Joe. You see the list? I on top of list now, Dollar. I top of list. Now nobody takes job away. My kids, my wife, they be good now. No live bad. I get big raise now. I top of list. But if no fire me, huh? Stay away, Joe. Joe, I'll shoot.
Stopped, and then he came at me again, as steady as before. The small trickles of blood started down his chest.
Stop, Joe!
His leg this time. He gripped it once, then let go. There was no expression of pain on his face, just determination. I was the last man in his way. After I was gone, he had a clear road to security. Then he was on me, his huge hands gripping my throat. Below me, I could feel the heat of freshly poured steel bubbling in his face. Then I shot again. Close quarters this time, and right for the heart. Slowly, the hands relaxed. The huge body slumped over the railing and fell. There was a hiss and puff of steam. I stood up. My legs were trembling under me. I looked down, shielding my face. There was nothing to see. The slag had covered over. Expense account item 9, $20.53. Flowers for Joe Poland's funeral. They buried a block of steel in place of his body. Barrett was standing there, standing to one side, and Mrs. Poland, and Mrs. Brody, and Mrs. Lemare. When the minister finished his little speech, Mrs. Poland turned to Barrett. I've never seen hate like that in anyone's eyes.
Murderer. You killed him. You killed him, Barrett. You killed them all. You still kill them. They'll all die of your
Come on, Mrs. Poland, come on. That isn't going to...
Murderer!
Come on now.
Oh, murderer! Madam Poland, I'm Marie Lemare. Let me take you home.
So Mrs. Poland went home with the woman whose husband Joe had killed. And I wondered, who are the murderers, and where does murder start? Though I don't like to see anyone lose his job, I like petty Simon Legree's even less. So I'm pleased to report that Joel Barrett has been replaced as supervisor. I finally concluded that if you trace a murder far enough, you get right back to every one of them. Expense account total $520.25. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien and was written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis, with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can currently be seen starring in the Harry M. Popkin United Artists production, DOA. Featured in our cast were Joe Forte, Junius Matthews, Jack Petruzzi, Raymond Burr, Jack Crucian, Kay Stewart, and Peggy Weber. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Join us again next week when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien will return in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
CBS will go right on bringing you Dr. Christian every Wednesday night over most of these same stations, along with Bing, Groucho, and George and Gracie. Stay tuned now for The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where Wednesday night is Bing Crosby night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. The one thing I'll say for Edmund O'Brien's portrayal of Johnny Dollar is it's probably the most working class portrayal. This is already his second undercover work in a blue-collar job. And I've got to be honest, I've been listening to the Bob Bailey Johnny Dollars, and I kind of, I don't know if I could buy Bob Bailey doing this type of thing. Then again, Bob Bailey, and let George do it, he did the tunnel digging, but that was a different character with George Valentine. His Johnny Dollar is a little different. And it was kind of an interesting perspective, too, as to who was responsible there. They mentioned George Burns and Gracie Allen. And I think next month we're actually going to do as or in 2 months, because next month is Basil Rathbone. But in 2 months we'll actually do Alan Ladd's appearance on Burns and Allen as one of our extras to kind of see him in a different light. And those of you who have the app will get to take a listen to that. All right, well, ever so briefly, I do want to remind you about Johnny Dollar Air. We still have that program set up. And encourage you to just use JohnnyDollarAir.com first time when you are making travel plans for hotels, airline tickets, rental car, and even more. All right, we have one listener comment, and then we'll wrap it up. David asked, Adam and the gang, please keep up the wonderful old-time radio shows. Also, are there any British shows in the pipeline? Once again, thanks. Thanks, David. Unless they were syndicated in America, no. British shows tend to be hard, as well as Australian shows. Not because there aren't any that I like to do, but because the British or any foreign copyrights are so confusing in the United States. In the U.S., they had something, a law passed by Congress in the 1990s that implemented something called the Uruguay Rounds Agreement. And basically, any works that were under copyright in a foreign country in 1996 get a full U.S. copyright. So in order to play a show that was really from a foreign country and be 100% assured of being legal, I'd have to know whether it was in the public domain in the country in which it originated in 1996. So I think I'd need to get a copyright attorney on staff. The only show I think outside of Sherlock Holmes that might even be possible would be Paul Temple, because Paul Temple goes back to the 1940s. But I haven't researched it thoroughly. I'll have to wait till I get a copyright attorney on file on staff. All right, well, that'll wrap it up. Thanks for the question. Got any questions? Feel free to send them to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.